Chapter 1954. I want this person! An incomparably arrogant voice resounded from the void. Yi Shiwen's face turned cold. Someone actually wanted to save him. He immediately shouted coldly. No one can save the person I want to kill! Not only did Yi Shiwen not stop, on the contrary, his long sword directly slashed down. Bang! The sword light directly bombarded Niu Xing to death on the spot, and then a big hand directly grabbed all the treasures on Niu Xing's body. Yi Shiwen used his divine sense to sweep around and discovered that there were actually hundreds of thousands of xiandong. Although it was not as good as the harvest from the lava bit wall, but such an explosive fortuitous encounter could only be encountered occasionally and not repeatedly. The fact that there were hundreds of thousands of xian pills was enough to prove that Niu Xing's net worth was not low. It was impossible for everyone to plunder wealth like the lava overlord for tens of thousands of years. However, all of it had fallen into Yi Shiwen's hands. For Yi Shiwen, who had just consumed tens of millions of xian pills, it was still a very precious amount of wealth. You actually dare to defy my will! A furious voice came from afar. Immediately after, a golden light swept across the vast sky and suddenly appeared in front of Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen fixed his eyes and saw that it was a young man. However, this young man was looking at Yi Shiwen with an angry face. He was seething with anger, as if Yi Shiwen had completely infuriated him. Yi Shiwen suddenly felt an earth-shattering power crushing down on his body. The golden divinities on his body surged up almost all of a sudden, and automatically resisted it. He is actually not inferior to Elder Xianting. No, he might even be stronger than Elder Xianting. Yi Shiwen was also somewhat shocked. He could feel that this young master wasn't very old. He was much older than him, but he could still be regarded as a member of the younger generation. However, his cultivation was even more terrifying than that of Elder Xianting, who had been cultivating for thousands of years. He was undoubtedly a peerless heaven's pride expert who had come from God knows where. Late profound death realm. This was actually a powerful existence in the late profound death realm. There was actually someone in the younger generation who had already entered the late profound death realm? This had already far exceeded Yi Shiwen's previous estimation. It was laughable that he was already complacent when he had entered the profound death realm. In this world, he was definitely not the strongest in terms of talent. In fact, he also understood that he was only a mediocre person. The fact that he was able to come this far was undoubtedly due to luck. However, seeing someone truly stepping into the advanced profound death stage still caused him to be incomparably shocked. Although it would not be difficult for him to step into the advanced profound death stage if he were to train for another few hundred years, the pressure that this person gave him was still extremely great. He had the mysterious space in his hands. The speed of his improvement had already far exceeded the limits of an ordinary person's imagination. What a pity! Originally, I did not want to cause unnecessary trouble. The two of you are not bad. I even wanted to take the two of you as my war slaves. In a few days, when I go to the Nameless Tao Academy, there will be some people that I can order around. I never imagined that you would actually dare to go against my wishes. It seems like you're really tired of living. In that case, don't blame me for swallowing you in one gulp. The golden-pupiled young man's eyes flickered with a demonic light as he spoke with an ugly expression. For him, not being able to save the person he wanted to save was simply a great humiliation. Yi Shiwen was slapping his face in public. How could he, who had always been arrogant and had never suffered such a loss since his cultivation, tolerate this? Originally, he did not intend to cause unnecessary trouble. However, he could no longer care about it now. He was a peerless expert himself. He could do as he pleased. How could he be restrained by others? Who are you? Asked Yi Shiwen. Your young master Gui Yun? Suddenly, a look of horror flashed across Bai Jianqing's face. He immediately recognized who this golden-pupiled young man was. The golden-pupiled young man, young Master Guiyun, sneered and said, "By Jianxing, I didn't expect you to recognize me. Originally, I wanted to swallow your luck in one gulp. Who knew that you would become such a waste and be bullied by others? Even I wouldn't dare to swallow such a waste's bad luck. I didn't expect the legend to be true." Bai Jianxing's expression turned ugly. Of course, he remembered that this young Master Guiyun had started his cultivation much later than him. Back then, he looked down on the world and was invincible. He did not care about the heroes of the world at all. When young Master Guiyun had just started his cultivation, he was already a peerless genius whose name shook the world. At that time, young Master Guiyun was just a junior and could not be compared to him. However, in the blink of an eye, more than 1,000 years had passed. The junior from back then was now far above him. His mood became incomparably complicated. Yi Shiwen, be careful. This young Master Guiyun is said to be the current successor of the Guiyun clan. There aren't many people in this clan, but every generation is a peerless expert. They are very difficult to deal with, Bai Jianxing said with an ugly expression. I didn't expect Bai Jianxing to know some of the legends of my clan. Young Master Guiyun said coldly. However, it's useless. You have completely angered me. Today, all of you will die. I will swallow all of your luck. When the time comes, I will definitely come out on top in this trip to the temple. I didn't expect that there are still people alive in this clan. Yi Mo's voice suddenly appeared in Yi Shiwen's mind. Why, you know them? Yi Shiwen asked. Yes, this clan used to be a very famous clan. They used to be very prosperous, but later it was said that they suffered the wrath of heaven and disappeared. I didn't expect to see them here again, Yi Mo said in amazement. Yi Mo clicked his tongue in amazement and said, generally speaking, a person's luck is innate. The heavenly Tao is not benevolent, but it will still give you a chance to live. That's why there's such a saying that nothing is absolute. Some people are born with a strong luck, and with the help of the world's will, they can reach a very high realm with a smooth sailing. However, some people are born with continuous battles and rise, just like you. However, their clan is different. It is said that their clan has a special secret method that can plunder people's luck. Even if their luck is not good at the beginning, they can continue to plunder and integrate the luck of people with great luck, and they can rise rapidly. They are even more terrifying than those born with great luck. Hiss! Yi Shiwen sucked in a breath of cold air. There is actually such a secret method. He had cultivated until now, so he naturally understood how important luck was to a martial artist. However, this thing had always been invisible and untouchable. There were many factors that determined a person's fate, but luck was undoubtedly a very important one. Some people would stumble their entire lives and never enjoy a good day, but some people were born rich and had a smooth sailing life. This was the difference in luck. However, even Yi Mo couldn't do anything about this. The people of this clan actually had a way to plunder luck. They were really stealing the luck of heaven and earth. No wonder it was said that they would suffer the wrath of heaven. What were the children of luck? They were the children of heaven and earth, who were deeply loved by heaven and earth. If heaven and earth were the parents, then the children of luck were the children who were favored by heaven and earth. These people were constantly being plundered and killed. Perhaps even heaven and earth would be enraged. Well, this kind of secret method can be said to be in defiance of the heaven and earth. As long as they continue to devour luck, they can even smoothly cultivate to the Tao. Therefore, this clan was very prosperous at that time. Therefore, they were envied by heaven and suffered the wrath of heaven. However, some people said that it wasn't because they had suffered the wrath of heaven, but because they had provoked the wrath of an emperor from a long time ago. So, the emperor personally took action and exterminated the clan. However, these things were too far back. Even I am not very clear about it, Yi Mo said, but no matter what the legends say, The people of this clan are very terrifying. They are simply the nemesis of people with great luck. They absorb your luck. It is very likely that you will die on the spot in a battle if you are not careful. This is the root cause of the besiegement of this clan. Yi Shiwen nodded. Everything had its advantages and disadvantages. Such a heaven-defying power technique would incur the jealousy of others even if it wasn't the wrath of heaven. There was no difference. I always thought that the matter of you being the current descendant of the Ghost Luck clan was just a rumor. I didn't expect it to be true. That pair of eyes can't be wrong, Bai Jianxing said with an ugly expression. Although he was no longer as glorious as he was in his heyday, he was, after all, a peerless figure who had once shaken a region. His eyesight was still not bad. You still have some knowledge. In the end, you are still a character. Unfortunately, you met the heavenly fox young master. Young Master Ghost Luck was slightly proud. As a member of an extremely glorious clan, he didn't mind letting others know his identity. Even if he attracted countless enemies of the Ghost Luck clan, he was still using them to torment himself. He was definitely a terrifying character. But it doesn't matter. The Heavenly Fox Young Master is also going to the nameless Tao College. When the time comes, I will swallow him in one gulp. It can be considered as revenge for you. Ha 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 ha. Young Master Ghost Luck seemed to be quite proud of his words. He actually laughed to the point where he couldn't catch his breath. I am simply too quick-witted. As expected, I am the quick-witted one. The Ghost Luck clan. I have only heard of this clan in the distant legends. There are actually members of this clan still alive? This is big news. It is said that the people of this clan have a secret technique that can devour luck. I wonder if it is true. If I can snatch it, won't I be invincible? Save it. This is a powerful existence in the late profound death realm. Other than the legendary figures, who would dare to say that they can suppress young Master Ghost Luck? I'm afraid it won't be long. He has appeared here openly. I'm afraid that even the legendary figures will be tempted. However, before that, all of you must die. Young Master Ghost Luck suddenly stopped laughing and smiled cruelly. Chapter 1955. However, before that, all of you must die. Young Master Ghost Luck stopped smiling and revealed a cruel smile. He looked at Yi Shiwen with an incomparably cold gaze. It was not hatred but a kind of disregard. It was like how a person would feel when facing their own food. How would a person feel about their own food? In the eyes of young Master Ghost Luck, Yi Shiwen was undoubtedly a kind of resource. He would devour Yi Shiwen's luck and strengthen himself. When the luck of the boundless universe gathered on his body, it would be the day of the Tao validation. This was also a different way to prove one's Tao, but it was a very impressive one. Rumble! The imposing aura on his body rose little by little, and the rumbling sound was like a thunderclap. A powerful, imposing aura swept towards Yi Shiwen like an avalanche. Oh! Yi Shiwen clenched his teeth, and the golden divinities on his body began to boil to compete with young Master Ghost Luck. Yi Shiwen's eyes were filled with determination, but he also knew that the strength of young Master Ghost Luck was probably above that of Elder Xian Ting. In terms of terror, he was even higher. Swish! In almost an instant, young Master Ghost Luck had already appeared in front of Yi Shiwen. His eyes began to emit circles of golden light that shrouded Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen, be careful. That is his method of plundering luck. Don't get enveloped by him. Bai Jianxing shouted hurriedly. It's too late. Hand over your luck obediently. Young Master Ghost Luck laughed loudly. He was not in a hurry to deal with Yi Shiwen. After devouring all of Yi Shiwen's luck, young Master Ghost Luck would be easily killed by himself. There was no need for him to do anything at all. Yi Shiwen suddenly felt a dreadful and strange power shrouding his body. Then, he felt as if a mysterious power was being drawn out of his body. He immediately realized that this was what it felt like when one's luck was sucked away. Clang! There was a loud explosion. In the void, countless ancient characters suddenly surged. These ancient characters did not look like ordinary characters, but law talismans condensed from Tao patterns. All of them appeared above Yi Shiwen's head. At that moment, he directly transformed into a god, constantly chanting ancient scriptures behind him, and the appearance of this god turned out to be exactly the same as Yi Shiwen. It was the ancient god scripture. The moment the ancient god scripture appeared, it directly suppressed his destiny. That feeling of powerlessness that made him feel as if his strength was being sucked out suddenly disappeared without a trace. Yi Shiwen, I will use the ancient god scripture to suppress your destiny, so you don't need to be afraid of him. However, although you have the ancient god scripture, your strength is still far inferior to his. After a long time, the ancient god scripture won't be able to suppress your destiny. Yimo said. After all, the ancient god scripture was the ancient god's own understanding of the great Tao. It was related to the gods, so it was naturally not simple. The gods themselves had already transcended the 3 realms and did not belong to the 5 elements. Who could plunder their luck? This kind of unorthodox method would not be able to shake such a great figure. All right, now is the time, Yi Shiwen shouted. The long sword in his hand directly set off a mighty sword radiance, and he slashed towards young Master Ghost Luck. Buried Heaven's Sword! He shouted, and the sword radiance formed a mighty long river of swordsmanship. It directly swept across the void and went straight for young Master Ghost Luck's head. Young Master Ghost Luck's originally sinister and proud expression suddenly froze. He did not expect such an unforeseen event to occur. His originally confident victory was actually blocked by Yi Shiwen. This was something that had never happened before. He retreated again and again, his hands constantly tearing out golden light, wiping out this mighty sword force bit by bit, obliterating it bit by bit. Damn it, what tricks do you have? See if I don't take you down. He shouted, and the murderous intent in his eyes intensified. This was the first time he met someone who could not deal with his Ghost Luck clan's luck-devouring technique. If he did not figure out the reason, he would not be able to sleep in peace in the future. After all, if Yi Shiwen had it, then others might have it too. He had to find the reason and think of a way to overcome it. Only then could he continue to grow stronger. Retreat? At this moment, Yi Shiwen had already taken advantage of this opportunity to retreat frantically, constantly retreating into the void. Go! He shouted towards Bai Jianxing and the rest. Young Master Ghost Luck, who was in the profound death realm, was not someone Yi Shiwen could deal with. Bai Jianxing and the rest were not stupid, and their reaction speed was also very fast. Almost at the moment when Yi Shiwen attacked, they had already started to fly out of the city. Swish, swish, swish. The few of them had already flown out of the city. In the blink of an eye, they had already flown extremely far away. Don't even think about leaving. Young Master Ghost Luck's face was distorted with anger. He had simply been tricked. This was something that had never happened before. Stay here! He shouted and immediately chased after Yi Shiwen. Young Master Ghost Luck was getting closer and closer. Almost in an instant, he was already not far behind them. Young Master Ghost Luck's figure shuttled through the space like a ghost. His speed was also extremely fast. Although Yi Shiwen's speed was also extremely fast, the cultivation of Bai Jianxing and the rest was far inferior. Moreover, their movement techniques were also inferior to young Master Ghost Luck's. At this moment, young Master Ghost Luck had already caught up to them. Yi Shiwen gritted his teeth and said, "You guys leave quickly. I will stay and stop him." The tempest wings behind him spread out. No matter what, young Master Ghost Luck was lured here by him. He could not give up on Bai Jianxing and the rest and escape by himself. No, Brother Yi, this young Master Ghost Luck is too strange. How can I leave you alone? Bai Jianxing said decisively. It's useless for you guys to stay. Your strength is far inferior to his. When the time comes, I will have to think about you guys. If I am alone, I can leave by myself," Yi Shiwen shouted. The Tempest Wings domain was instantly spread out to delay young Master Ghost Luck's speed. Although Bai Jianxing knew that Yi Shiwen was telling the truth, how could he just watch Yi Shiwen stay here and die without doing anything at this time? "None of you can leave today," young Master Ghost Luck roared. His aura was astonishing. He directly split open the domain of Yi Shiwen's Tempest Wings, but it did not delay his movements for long. "Brother Yi, let me stay. This young Master Ghost Luck is too much. Today, I will let him have a taste of the backlash of fate energy." Bai Jianxing gritted his teeth and said. He was not without a trump card. Today, he was going to use it and fight to the death. If the difference in strength between Yi Shiwen and young Master Ghost Luck was not that big, then the difference between him, who was only at the peak of the early profound death realm, and young Master Ghost Luck was like heaven and earth. "Come on then." Yi Shiwen's anger was completely provoked. "Fight, fight, fight." Yi Shiwen originally did not want to fight with young Master Ghost Luck. If he fought with him now, it would be too easy for others. However, young Master Ghost Luck refused to let him go, and it was simply too much. It was better to turn back and kill him directly to avoid future troubles. Although he could not use the Ghost Heart Fire formation, it was not that he did not have any means. If he used the Emergence Immortal Exterminating Saber, as long as the opportunity was right, he might even be able to kill young Master Ghost Luck on the spot. However, this was also a matter of probability. He had never liked to bet his future on luck, but at this time, he could not care so much. Yi Shiwen turned around, and suddenly, a terrifying imposing aura burst out from his body. A shocking imposing aura burst out from his body. His hand grabbed towards the void, and an astonishing imposing aura spread out from the void, and then manifested bit by bit. This terrifying aura shocked the originally insolent young Master Ghost Luck. His eyes were filled with surprise and doubt. Clearly, this trump card made him apprehensive. Although he did not know what Yi Shiwen's trump card was, just this prelude was already so terrifying. He was afraid that this trump card would be extremely terrifying. "Young Master, we'd better not fight him head-on. If we are seriously injured because of this, and the inheritance in the temple is taken away, then the gains will not make up for the losses. When the inheritance is obtained, young Master will reach the peak of the profound death realm, and you will definitely be the strongest person below the mythical realm. These people are just a bunch of clowns. How can they be compared to young Master?" The old voice echoed in his mind. When young Master Ghost Luck saw that Yi Shiwen's aura was getting stronger, the surprise and doubt in his eyes became even more intense. At this time, he gradually calmed down. Although he still wanted to skin Yi Shiwen alive, he hesitated when he thought that he might be seriously injured, and that others might take advantage of his weakness. Originally, he thought that it would be a simple matter. Who knew that there would be such a huge wave that made him apprehensive? Moreover, to him, his strongest means, the secret technique of the Ghost Luck clan, actually did not work on Yi Shiwen. This made him a little less confident. I'll let you guys off today. Next time, you won't be so lucky." Young Master Ghost Luck snorted coldly. He immediately turned around and rushed back into the Earthen City. Seeing that young Master Ghost Luck was scared away, everyone reluctantly heaved a sigh of relief. That was close. I was almost killed by him. The young man, Yi Shan, could not help but look as if he had just survived a disaster. This time, it could be said that he had experienced life and death twice, and each time was more terrifying than the last. In particular, he was able to meet a powerful person like young Master Ghost Luck, who was also his enemy. He was extremely lucky to be able to escape from death twice. Chapter 1956. Yi Shiwen also breathed a sigh of relief. Although he planned to use the Emergence Immortal Exterminating Saber, he was not confident. He had a lot of trump cards. In addition to the ghost heart fire array, he still had some other tricks up his sleeve. However, he was not confident that he could injure or even kill young Master Ghost Fortune in one blow. Due to the difference in strength between the two sides, even if he had trump cards, he could not use them frequently. At most, he could only use them once. If he was not forced to, he did not want to be so stubborn. Fortunately, young Master Ghost Fortune was scared away in the end. "I'm sorry, Brother Bai. Today's incident happened because I had a dispute with Niu Xing and the others." Yishan stepped forward and said with an apologetic look on his face, "It's nothing. This matter cannot be blamed on you. It was Niu Xing who deliberately provoked us. As long as we encountered him, how could he let us go so easily?" Bai Jianxing said with a smile, "I have to thank Brother Yi for today. Without Brother Ye's help, I'm afraid we would not have been able to escape today." "It's nothing. It's just a small effort on my part." Yi Shiwen waved his hand and said, "Getting rid of Niu Xing was indeed as easy as lifting a finger for him. Who would have thought that a big shot like young Master Ghost Luck would be hidden in this mess? Such a character had been drawn out. These were all unexpected events that were unpredictable. In any case, Brother Yi is our savior. If you need anything in the future, you can come to the Bai clan to find us. By the way, I forgot to introduce you. This naughty girl is called Yun Ro. She is a rare genius in the Yun clan in recent years. This is Yi Shan, an outstanding figure of the new generation of the Yi clan in Qishan." Bai Jianxing introduced. "Yi clan of Qishan." Yi Shiwen's eyes suddenly lit up. He originally suspected that Yi Shan was related to the Yi clan of the Ancient Desolation. After all, they both came from the Ancient Desolation and had the surname Yi. The probability of him not being from the Yi clan of Qishan was very small. Now, it seemed that this was indeed the case. Yi Shan should be a descendant of the Yi clan in the Xian world. In this way, Yi Shiwen and Yi Shan should be regarded as the same clan. Thinking of this, Yi Shiwen felt a sense of closeness towards Yi Shan. Meeting an old friend in a foreign land was one of the four great joys of life. Not to mention, Yi Shan was one of his own clansmen, so naturally, he was overjoyed. However, he had no intention of revealing this matter. After all, he had yet to figure out the current situation of the human race in the profound world. "Brother Bai, don't make fun of me. What kind of outstanding person am I? I was almost killed. If it wasn't for Brother Ye's help, I would have died long ago. This time, I have completely understood what it means to be able to cultivate to the profound life realm at the age of a few hundred years. I thought that it was already amazing. No matter what, I could be considered as a top figure in this world. Everyone says that the profound realm is a big shot in the Xian world. I was complacent about it. But in the end, I realized that I'm just a piece of trash in the Xian world." Yi Shan waved his hand and said while rubbing his head in embarrassment. Although he was a little naive, he wasn't stupid. On the contrary, he was quite smart. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to cultivate to the profound realm before he was 1,000 years old. Moreover, he had already cultivated to the intermediate stage of the profound life realm. If a monstrous genius like Yi Shiwen was not taken into account, he could already be considered outstanding for his age to have cultivated to this level. After cultivating for a few hundred years, even if he didn't have any fortuitous encounters, it was still very possible for him to catch up to those famous figures in the world. Yun Ro's strength was a little stronger than Yi Shan's. She had already entered the advanced stage of the profound life realm. Her strength could be considered as outstanding among the younger generation. It was only because she had encountered monstrous geniuses like Yi Shiwen and young Master Gui Yun that she seemed to be overshadowed. Otherwise, no matter where she went, she would be worthy of being called a genius. "At least you haven't lost your mind," Bai Jianxing said with a smile. "This world is big, and there are many heroes. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have heard of Brother Yi. Don't be complacent, but don't belittle yourself either. In the future, surpassing me is only a matter of time. Who said that? If Brother Bai hadn't been injured by that despicable young Master Heavenly Fox, how would you have wasted 1,000 years? Otherwise, Brother Bai would at least be on the same level as young Master Heavenly Fox and the others. Brother Bai would definitely have a place among the young heroes of this world. Yunro quickly said. What kind of young hero am I? Bai Jianxing laughed self-deprecatingly. Look at Brother Yi. He is so young, but he already has such a cultivation. He is a true young hero. He is a monster. Yunro pursed her small mouth and said. Then, her pair of bright eyes couldn't help but look at Yi Shiwen. She was afraid that he would be angry. Brother Yi, please don't be offended. She is like this. She doesn't know how to control her mouth, but she is not a bad person. Bai Jianxing quickly explained. It seemed that she was afraid that Yi Shiwen would be angry. Even if Yi Shiwen was not a match for young Master Gui Yun, it was too easy for him to deal with them. Yi Shiwen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Monster. Indeed, many people used such adjectives to describe him, but it was the first time that someone said it in front of him. However, he could also see that Yunro was indeed naive, and didn't have too many thoughts. She was probably well protected, and hadn't experienced many bloody storms. She was completely different from Yi Shiwen, who had forcibly killed his way to the top. It's okay. Why would I be angry? Yi Shiwen waved his hand and said, but now that young Master Gui Yun has left, it is hard to guarantee that he won't come back. Where are you going now? Are you going to leave this plane? Yi Shiwen asked. Bai Jianxing frowned slightly and said, although it is very dangerous, we still have to go to that temple. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes and said, there is really no other way. Brother Yi, our brother Bai had fought with young Master Heavenly Fox many years ago. Later, he was injured by a despicable method and left with a Dao injury. In recent years, he hasn't made any progress at all. If we want to cure his injury, we will need a kind of divine water in this temple. So, no matter how dangerous it is, we have to give it a try. If we can find it and cure Brother Bai's injury, then Brother Bai can also fight for a spot in the nameless Dao College. It would be a pity if we give up just like that. Yunro explained. So that's how it is. Yi Shiwen nodded inwardly. If it were him, he would not let go of such an opportunity. Fighting to the death was much better than having no chance at all. I have let Brother Yi see a joke, but this is indeed my only chance. If I miss the opening of the nameless Dao College this time, I am afraid I will not be able to participate in the next one, Bai Jianxing said with a firm expression. For everyone, this was a chance to change their fate. So, no matter how dangerous it is, I have to give it a try. If that is the case, then I will not stop you. But how do you know that there is such a divine water in this temple? Yi Shiwen asked. I will not hide it from Brother Yi. In fact, this plane was once ruled by a divine religion. This divine religion is under the command of that god. Our Bai family had dealings with this divine religion, so we know that there is such a kind of divine water in this divine religion that can heal Dao injuries. I just don't know if the temple has it, but even if there is only a small chance, I have to give it a try. Bai Jianxing said. I see. Yi Shiwen nodded, but he was also a little surprised. For a warrior, Dao injuries were undoubtedly a kind of despair. Physical injuries were nothing for warriors. As long as they did not die on the spot, they could recover quickly with their strong recovery ability. The only trouble was the injuries to the soul and spirit, which were very difficult to treat. Dao injuries were even more difficult to treat than the injuries to the soul and spirit. There was almost no way to treat it. It was a crack in one's martial arts. It could not be seen or touched, but it was a real injury. Once the Dao was severely damaged and formed a Dao injury, there was almost no way to treat it. Yi Shiwen was a little surprised that there was such a magical divine water in this temple. In that case, let's bid farewell, Yi Shiwen said with his hands cupped. He did not want to give up, and it was even more impossible for him to run away because of young Master Gui Yun. However, he had his own plans, and it was not convenient for him to travel with the three of them. Well, that's good. The mountains will not change, and the rivers will flow forever. If there is a chance in the future, Brother Yi, please go to the ancestral land of the northern human race. Bai Jianxing said with his hands cupped. I will definitely go there in the future. Goodbye. Yi Shiwen naturally could not say that he originally wanted to go to the Xian world to find the human race. He just said vaguely, turned around, and turned into a streamer, disappearing in mid-air. Sigh, we were lucky this time. Otherwise, I'm afraid we would have died in the hands of Niu Xing. Bai Jianxing sighed. He also looked a little sad. Those who he had never taken seriously before were now above him. Seeing those who he had defeated before surpass him one by one, such a feeling almost made him feel dispirited. If it was not for his natural cheerfulness, just this experience of being half-crippled was enough to drive a person crazy. It would have been fine if he had never gotten up. However, when he got up, he was praised to the sky and then thrown down to the ground. This was the most terrifying thing. You all have to be careful in the future. In the Xian world battlefield, we must not be careless. Otherwise, an unknown powerhouse can come out and kill us. Bai Jianxing warned. Yes. Understood. The two of them nodded. Today was too exciting. Bai Jianxing, who was thought to be invincible in the profound death realm, was actually no match for these people. This had completely overturned the world of experts that they had previously thought of. The profound death realm was not the peak. It was just the beginning. A month passed in the blink of an eye. On a dark and windy night, a boundless force began to pull the void. Under the sand, a temple slowly emerged from the surface of the earth. Chapter 1957. No one was able to describe the majestic and spectacular feeling. On the boundless land of sand and dust, a divine palace appeared like a colossus that had emerged from the surface of the sea. Rumble! The entire ground trembled violently, as if it was enduring some kind of intense friction. A terrifying power spread out from within. The sunlight in the sky had already been completely covered, forming an extremely horrifying scene. Endless sand was swept up by a terrifying power, forming a world-shaking sandstorm that enveloped the entire divine palace. It looked extremely spectacular. Everyone knew that the opportunity they had been waiting for had finally arrived. Although it was impossible to see the entirety of the divine palace in the distance due to the sandstorm, just the silhouette alone was enough to shock everyone. Swoosh! 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 At this moment, numerous rays of light continuously flashed through the sky. In an instant, the majestic auras of over 1,000 powerful profound realm experts swept through the sky. No one wanted to be left behind. Everyone fought to be the first to rush towards the divine palace. Profound life stage, profound death stage, there was no difference. Ah! All of a sudden, intense miserable cries rang out from the sky. A few profound life stage experts that had been lying in ambush outside the city had finally managed to seize the initiative as they wished. However, the result of seizing the initiative was that they were completely swallowed by the sandstorm. They disappeared without a trace, without a single trace remaining. Everyone was stunned. Many of the fanatical people were also stunned as panic started to spread. Although they were only at the initial stage of the profound life stage, they could definitely be considered as big shots in the profound world. It would not be a problem for them to rule over a region. However, they had been easily swallowed by the sandstorm. It was simply unimaginable. It should be known that once one stepped into the truth realm, any life would begin the process of transcending the mortal world. Even if they were in an extremely vile and airless environment, they would still be able to survive. That was no longer a mortal life. Thus, they were said to be transcending the mortal world. What kind of sandstorm could swallow a profound life stage expert? That was truly illogical. Everyone was shocked and did not know what to do. In other words, he wanted to see if there was anyone who was willing to go. At this moment, an arrogant figure suddenly appeared in the sky and flew over everyone's heads. It was none other than young Master Gui Yun. Whoosh! Young Master Gui Yun was extremely fast, and his movement technique was strange. In an instant, he had already swept into the sandstorm. This time, everyone was finally able to clearly see exactly what it was that had devoured the three profound life stage experts. However, the moment young Master Gui Yun rushed into the sandstorm, waves of sand shot up into the sky, crashing out like a raging wave. Then, everyone only saw that in the dark sandstorm, an incomparably huge mouth directly opened, and with the momentum to devour the sky, it swallowed young Master Gui Yun on the spot. The rows of sharp teeth even shattered the sky. One could well imagine just how frightening their biting strength was. Even without any other divine abilities, just their frightening biting strength alone was enough to bite a profound life stage or even a profound death stage expert to death on the spot. What kind of beast is this? How dare you bare your teeth at me? Young Master Gui Yun sneered. Golden light flickered continuously in his eyes, turning into an invisible giant hand that slapped down on the huge figure in the darkness. Boom! 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 This terrifying force bombarded the huge figure, but it could not stop the huge figure from moving forward. Even its speed was not affected. It was really terrifying to the extreme. Whoosh! This figure rushed out of the sandstorm. At this moment, everyone finally saw clearly what it was. This monster was like a ferocious beast in the sea. Its entire body was like a huge whale, and it was thousands of meters long. Its entire body was yellow, and it was covered in bright scales. Its face was ferocious, and its mouth was almost half the size of its body. In its open mouth, countless teeth of different levels could be seen. They glowed with a frightening light, and an astonishing stench was spat out from its mouth. Sand-devouring, heaven-swallowing beast. Damn, it's actually this kind of primordial variant. A sharp-eyed person recognized the origin of this huge ferocious beast. More people were shocked, and their hair stood on end. Some people even felt that they were about to faint. It was actually a shocking primordial variant beast like the sand-devouring, heaven-swallowing beast. This kind of ferocious beast used to run amok in the primordial era. It is said that it survived by devouring gravel. Later on, it could even devour a world in one bite. It is very terrifying, and it is one of the terrifying ferocious beasts that can challenge the gods. An adult sand-devouring, heaven-swallowing beast is as big as a small world. If it goes all out, it can devour an entire world with a single bite. It's truly terrifying. This one is at most an infant, but even so, it's terrifying enough. Many people said with worried expressions, "Didn't they say that the sand-devouring, heaven-swallowing beast was already extinct? Those ferocious beasts that could challenge the gods and challenge the majesty of the gods were eliminated by the gods during the Age of Gods, right? This divine religion is crazy. They actually raised this kind of creature in captivity. Aren't they afraid that this ferocious beast will turn on them when it grows up?" Yi Shiwen, who was mixed in the crowd, couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. This ferocious beast that was thousands of meters long was actually an infant. It was unimaginable how ferocious it would be when it grew up. I'm afraid it wouldn't be worse than the star beast bloodline in my body. The adult form of the star beast was also a powerful ferocious beast that could challenge the gods. Even if he didn't understand this period of history, he knew that in the primordial era, it could be said to be the world of these ferocious beasts. Even the gods had to retreat when facing these ferocious beasts. They didn't dare to compete with these ferocious beasts. In the face of these ferocious beasts that could easily devour a world, many gods joined forces to kill most of these ferocious beasts. They fought until the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Now, even if he only had a little bit of the bloodline of the primordial ferocious beast, his strength would soar to a terrifying level, just like the bloodline of the star beast in Yishiwen's body. Moreover, it was a pure-blooded monster. It was already so terrifying in its infancy. When it grew up, almost no one could stop it. At this moment, the sand-devouring heaven-swallowing beast in the field bit towards young Master Ghost Luck. In the face of this primordial ferocious beast, no matter how conceited young Master Ghost Luck was, he didn't dare to test it. He wanted to see how terrifying the bite force of this sand-devouring heaven-swallowing beast was. Swish! His figure disappeared from where he was in an instant. The moment he disappeared, the huge sand-devouring heaven-swallowing beast bit down on the spot where he had just been and crushed it. A large area of the space collapsed, and the chaos that leaked out was also swallowed by this sand-devouring heaven-swallowing beast. Everyone couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. This was completely unafraid of cold and raw. It even swallowed the chaos in one gulp. It didn't seem to be afraid of indigestion. Swish! When young Master Ghost Luck reappeared, he had already jumped into the sandstorm and disappeared from the Temple Palace complex. Let's fight. We must rush over. Otherwise, can we just watch that guy take away the things? Well, we must find a way to deal with this sand-devouring heaven-swallowing beast together. Otherwise, none of us can even think about going over. Everyone began to discuss. Facing the terrifying ferocious beast that hid in the sandstorm, everyone inevitably felt a chill down their spine. Not everyone had the agility and speed of young Master Ghost Luck. There was only one outcome for most of them if they rushed in, which was to be swallowed in one gulp. At least half of the people here had to die before they could rush over. Although it might not be them, it might be them. How many people had such absolute confidence that they wouldn't be swallowed in one gulp? This was a terrifying existence that even swallowed space fragments into its stomach. It was completely unafraid of cold and raw. Once it entered its stomach, it would definitely be a dead end. It was impossible to survive. Let's go. When the time comes, everyone will attack together. No one should hold back. Otherwise, it is very likely that we will all be wiped out. Someone shouted and took the lead to rush out. It was a profound Death Realm expert, and he flew straight towards the temple. At this time, how could anyone dare to stay any longer? They followed after him. Even though they knew that this temple was full of danger, everyone's heart seemed to be on fire when they thought that it was related to Tao validation. Swish! 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 Everyone rushed into the sandstorm one after another. Sure enough, as expected, a bloody mouth opened up again and bit at them. Attack! Don't let this beast come close. Everyone began to roar and attack. Although everyone had their own ulterior motives, no one dared to joke around with their lives at this time. They still wanted to live to obtain the inheritance of the god. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A series of violent explosions sounded. Thousands of Profound Life Realm and Profound Death Realm experts attacked together at this moment. The martial arts torrent that was directly blasted out was so powerful that people couldn't look directly at it. The entire space collapsed with a loud bang. The endless sandstorm was also brought into the spatial turbulence by the shattered space, and the appearance of the temple could barely be seen. Chapter 1958. It was a group of majestic palaces that flickered with a strange light. It had an unknown architectural style, and there were many statues erected on top of the palaces. Looking at these statues from afar, one would feel a chill run down one's spine. This made everyone understand that even if this temple wasn't some sort of evil cult, it was more or less the same. Perhaps they were worshipping some sort of evil god. Otherwise, why would they even rear such a terrifying existence like the sand-devouring heaven-swallowing beast? They were simply a bunch of lunatics. However, at this time, no one had the mood to pay attention to this. They only heard a huge roar, and the 1,000-meter-long behemoth fell into the sand. It was blasted away by the joint attack of thousands of experts above the profound life realm. Even the scales on its body had cracked. However, only a few cracks had appeared. Such a powerful defense caused everyone to involuntarily suck in a breath of cold air. If this continued, it would be difficult to really hurt this sand-devouring, heaven-swallowing beast. Yi Shiwen was also shocked by what he saw in the crowd. Although the star beast was known to have an invincible body, in terms of defense, it was still a few levels lower than the sand-devouring, heaven-swallowing beast. It was more reflected in its boundless power. Although they were both known as Archean fierce beasts, there was still a huge difference between them. Everyone did not dare to hesitate, and hurriedly rushed into the temple. The angry roar of the sand-devouring, heaven-swallowing beast came from behind. A few profound life realm experts who could not enter in time were swallowed by it on the spot. Everyone almost had the time to see the horrifying scene when half of their bodies were bitten off by the sand-devouring, heaven-swallowing beast's dense and sharp teeth. The bodies of profound life realm experts could be said to have gone through thousands of tempering and were very powerful. However, at this time they were bitten off in one bite as if they were biting through plastic foam. The bloody scene made them shudder. They did not dare to continue watching, and hurriedly went into the depths of the temple. Yi Shiwen entered the temple, and suddenly felt cold and gloomy all around him. An extremely gloomy aura leapt out from under his feet. It was a gloomy and cold aura that penetrated straight into his soul. Otherwise, he would have been impervious to cold and heat for many years. The atmosphere in the entire temple was very gloomy. It looked very strange. The walls of the entire temple were engraved with some very strange pictures, as if they were offering something. It seemed to be depicting the sacrificial activities of this church in the distant past, making people feel creeped out. Whoosh! 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 After entering the palaces of the divine temple, everyone quickly dispersed and flew towards the various palaces. Soon, only Yi Shiwen was left. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the walls of the temple palace. Why does it feel so strange? Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes and said, "Whoosh!" Suddenly, a black shadow swept over from the void and rushed towards Yi Shiwen's neck. It opened its bloody mouth, and a fishy smell assailed his nostrils. Yi Shiwen directly pulled out his sword, and the sword light swept out. Poochie! The entire black shadow was directly split into two halves by Yi Shiwen on the spot, and fell from the sky. Yi Shiwen finally saw clearly what it was. He saw that it was a kind of blood-red devil with a ferocious face. It was a bit like the great devil clan of the devil race, but it was much smaller, like the legendary little devil. However, at this time, it was split into two halves by Yi Shiwen's sword, and unexpectedly turned into a pool of blood. Then, it slowly condensed into a little devil, and once again rushed towards Yi Shiwen. Can't kill it? Yi Shiwen squinted his eyes. This was much more difficult to deal with than anything else. Poochie! Yi Shiwen once again accurately slashed the body of this little devil, and it was split into two halves. He found that this little devil was a little smaller than the original after recondensing, and only then did he feel relieved. It turned out that this kind of recondensing was not without a price. How could ordinary creatures be immortal and indestructible? Even if it was a god, if it was split into two halves, perhaps its vitality would be greatly damaged. Poochie! 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 Yi Shiwen's sword chopped down again and again. When Yi Shiwen chopped down for the 10th time, this seemingly immortal little devil was completely unable to condense again. What the hell is this thing? It seems like some kind of Een spirit has attached itself to some kind of energy. Yi Shiwen frowned and said, "Ah." In the distant palace there was a constant scream. It seemed that many people had been killed by this little devil. Not everyone could be like Yi Shiwen, and kill these little devils with ease. Yi Shiwen quickly rushed in, and in almost every palace, He could hear this kind of scream unceasingly. It was very terrifying, and it reverberated in the palace. Human, you are very courageous. You actually dare to repatriate in such a situation. It seems that you have been blinded by greed. Suddenly, an incomparably old voice came from behind Yi Shiwen. Then, an incomparably loud explosion was heard, followed by a loud tearing sound. A shocking ray of light descended from the void. Bang! 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 At this critical moment, Yi Shiwen used his storm wings to protect himself. However, his entire body was like a balloon, and he continuously bounced on the ground a few times before stopping. He felt a stifling feeling in his body, and a sweet taste in his throat. He had actually been seriously injured. He forcefully suppressed his injuries, and used the Phoenix regeneration technique to heal the wounds on his body. He turned around and saw an old man whose entire body was shrouded in shadows. His face could not be seen clearly, and he could only barely make out that it was an old man with an aged face. His figure was not tall, but it carried a terrifying pressure. An expert at the peak of the profound death realm intermediate stage. Yi Shiwen immediately judged that this was a peerless expert at the peak of the profound death realm intermediate stage. Although the threat posed by this expert was not comparable to the threat posed by Elder Xianting, it was still terrifying enough for an expert at the peak of the profound death realm intermediate stage. More importantly, he had once felt this aura beside young Master Ghost Fortune. Although he had concealed it very well at that time, Yi Shiwen still sensed it. This was also the reason why Yi Shiwen did not choose to fight head-on from the beginning. Young Master Ghost Fortune was already very powerful, not to mention there was an existence that was even more powerful than him at the side. You are young Master Ghost Fortune's man? Yi Shiwen squinted his eyes, and his aura slowly recovered. The power of the Phoenix regeneration technique was displayed incisively and vividly at this moment. That's right, you can actually recognize me. Not bad, but it's a pity. The old man looked at Yi Shiwen coldly. Originally, you were already very lucky to be able to escape from the hands of the young master. It's a pity that you don't know what's good for you, and actually came back. There's a way to heaven, but you didn't take it, and you barged into hell. This is the heavens wanting to destroy you. Do you think that you have hidden so well that no one can see you? In fact, it's just that the young master can't free himself. Do you think that you can be compared with the young master? When young master obtains what he wants, it will be hard for him to meet a worthy opponent among the younger generation. The old man sneered disdainfully, as if he was dismissive of Yi Shiwen. In addition to you, there are also Bai Jianxing and those rats, but it doesn't matter. They all have to die. The young master can't free himself, but it doesn't mean that I will let you continue to be so rampant. Do you think you can kill me? Yi Shiwen said coldly. Then try it. The old man snorted coldly, and a long spear appeared in his hand. I know you have some tricks, but it's useless. I won't give you a chance to use them. The long spear in his hand burst out endless light, and scales appeared, sticking to the spear. At a glance, it looked like a long dragon. Swish! He instantly moved and thrust his spear straight towards Yi Shiwen's head. The spear swept out and fiercely pierced towards Yi Shiwen's head. This spear light pierced through the sky, and let out a terrifying buzzing sound, smashing everything. It was like a ferocious beast that swooped down with a roar. Everything that tried to block it would be shattered in an instant, and it was extremely terrifying. Even though he couldn't compare to Elder Xianting, how could Yi Shiwen not see that the strength of this old man was probably at the peak of the profound death realm intermediate stage? In the distance, the expressions of many people changed. They could all feel the aura of such a terrifying expert when he attacked. Many people didn't dare to stay any longer. Since such a terrifying battle had already erupted, it was even more impossible to approach casually. With such strength, apart from young Master Gui Yun, there was probably no one who could stop him. How could they dare to stay any longer? Yi Shiwen suddenly raised his hand to block. Bang! However, there was only a loud rumble. The long spear broke through Yi Shiwen's layers of defense like a hot knife through butter, and directly pierced into Yi Shiwen's flesh. It directly rubbed against Yi Shiwen's palm, and a sound like metal colliding rang out. Thump, thump, thump. Yi Shiwen took a few steps back, and barely managed to dissipate this force. Everything under his feet had completely turned into powder. This force was too ferocious, and even the floor that was made of special materials was completely shattered. Blood flowed down from his arm, but Yi Shiwen didn't care. With the help of the Phoenix regeneration technique, he quickly recovered bit by bit. His eyes were incomparably cold as he looked at the old man in front of him. The long spear in the old man's hand was already at the level of a top-notch profound weapon. Even with the tyrannical strength of his tyrant body, it could still be pierced by the old man's spear. It seemed that he had been a little careless just now. At the same time, there was an unconcealable look of horror in the old man's eyes. Chapter 1959. He was well aware of how frightening his spear was. He did not spread his power throughout the entire shrine. Otherwise, his spear would have pierced through the stars in the sky. However, it was even more frightening when it was concentrated at a single point. It could be said to be indestructible. However, it could only pierce through his palm. Under normal circumstances, his entire arm would have been blown apart on the spot. From this, one could imagine the reason why this brat dared to sneak back in so arrogantly. You do have some skills. However, it's useless. No one can save you today. He looked at Yi Shiwen coldly, as if he was looking at a dead man. Rumble! In that instant, murderous intent surged from his body. As a peak profound death realm intermediate stage expert, even if he had yet to step into the profound death realm advanced stage, it was already frightening enough. The powerful and frightening power swept towards Yi Shiwen. This time, Yi Shiwen did not choose to take it head-on. Golden divinities surged from beneath his feet. Wind and thunder wings unfolded behind him and instantly flapped. In the next second, he had already disappeared from where he was. Boom! The entire space where he was standing was blasted into fragments. Everything was scattered, with spatial fragments flying everywhere. The entire scene looked incomparably frightening. Although this spear attack was not too dazzling, those who were truly knowledgeable would understand the murderous intent contained within it. If one was not careful, one might be blasted to smithereens on the spot. When Yi Shiwen reappeared, he was already behind the old man. His black hair fluttered in the wind and his eyes were incomparably cold. In an instant, he had entered the clear mirror state. Even if such an expert had yet to step into the profound death realm advanced stage, he had no choice but to go all out. Clang! The sword light was shocking. It swept out from his hand and headed straight for the old man's head. Its speed was extremely fast and its power was extremely powerful. The old man's reaction was also extremely fast. He did not expect Yi Shiwen's speed to be so fast. Yi Shiwen had easily dodged his spear attack. The malevolent expression on his face froze. However, his reaction was even faster. He immediately retracted his spear and turned around to stab towards the sword light that Yi Shiwen had sent down. Clang! The tip of the spear and the light of the sword collided directly. It was as if two mighty stars had collided in the void. The dazzling light swept out, causing the void to collapse. There were even some screams coming from the dark creatures hiding in the darkness of the divine temple, peeping at the battle. Originally, they wanted to wait for the two of them to fight so that they could reap the benefit. Who knew that just the shockwaves from the two of them's fight would shock a group of them to death? They had just revived with great difficulty, but they were shocked to death again. He didn't even have the time to react before he was shaken to death. The crazy exchange between the two intermediate profound death stage experts seemed as though the entire palace was about to collapse. The various defensive formations within the palace were all activated. Under the aftershocks of the battle, the palace continued to tremble. It seemed as though it could completely collapse at any moment. With the exception of young Master Guiyun, the two middle-stage profound death stage experts could be said to be the top existences among the thousands of profound death stage experts. No one dared to get close to these two experts who were fighting crazily. Bang! 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 Yi Shiwen and the old man continued to exchange blows. The void continued to collapse. Yi Shiwen continued to counterattack and injure the old man, but he was constantly suppressed. Although Yi Shiwen was at a disadvantage against this old man, he wasn't as powerless as when he was against young Master Guiyun. Suddenly, a fist incarnation appeared behind Yi Shiwen. It was another domineering figure that looked down on the world. It was like the greatest ruler in the world, and it integrated into Yi Shiwen's body. Yi Shiwen's strength immediately soared from the initial intermediate profound death stage to the peak intermediate profound death stage. Bang! Once again, Yi Shiwen didn't retreat. Both of them were evenly matched. The old man had cultivated for many more years than Yi Shiwen, but Yi Shiwen had integrated with the fist incarnation and was incomparably violent. For a time, both of them were evenly matched. Martial arts incarnation. Although the old man couldn't suppress Yi Shiwen, he was still very accurate. He could immediately tell that Yi Shiwen had condensed a martial arts incarnation. An expert who had condensed a martial arts incarnation was terrifying. Every single one of them was terrifying. Not only did it mean that they were tyrannical and terrifying, but the most important thing was that after the martial arts incarnation was released, their combat power would undergo an earth-shattering change in a short period of time. It was a bit like a secret technique, but it didn't have any side effects and could be used freely at any time. Back then, Yi Shiwen and Jun Dingtian were in similar realms. Although Yi Shiwen's skills were slightly inferior to Jun Dingtian's, it wasn't to the extent of being worlds apart. However, the actual result was that Yi Shiwen was abused by Jun Dingtian. That was one of the few battles since Yi Shiwen's debut where he couldn't even fight back. Although he managed to force Jun Dingtian to retreat by consuming his energy, it was only because Yi Shiwen had a heaven-defying technique like Phoenix regeneration. If it were someone else, they would have been killed. It was precisely because the gap between them was so huge because of the martial arts incarnation that Yi Shiwen desired martial arts incarnation so much. Since you have condensed a martial arts incarnation, then you can't be taken lightly. The old man's eyes suddenly became sharp. With his experience, he naturally understood what martial arts incarnation meant. There were thousands of so-called geniuses, but whether they could condense martial arts incarnation was another watershed. Many geniuses were also divided into different levels. Those who could condense martial arts incarnation were naturally top-notch geniuses. No matter how many martial arts incarnations they could condense, their power was beyond the comprehension of ordinary people. If Yi Shiwen condensed a second martial arts incarnation, wouldn't he be beaten to death on the spot? You will die today. It's useless even if you integrate with martial arts incarnation. The old man knew very well what the consequences of not removing the roots of a weed was, not to mention that such a peerless genius failed to remove the root of the weed. Although he couldn't condense martial arts incarnation, his understanding of martial arts incarnation was no less than theirs. He was also very clear that although martial arts incarnation was powerful and had no side effects, its biggest problem was that it couldn't last long in a battle. Only after proving one's Tao and turning one's body into a world with endless spiritual qi, known as boundless magic power, could one truly display the ultimate power of martial arts incarnation. And this martial arts incarnation itself was a god-level magical martial art in the distant past. It was originally not for ordinary people to use. It was only later that a simplified version slowly spread among the mysterious realm experts. This was also why geniuses were divided according to this. If a mortal could comprehend the god-level magical martial art, then what would they be if not a peerless genius? Boom! The long spear smashed the sky and directly fell towards Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen was not in a hurry. After accommodating the fist incarnation, Yi Shiwen could be said to have seen the heart of the fist, and its power was infinite. He blasted out a punch, and the entire sky suddenly collapsed. It was tit for tat with the falling spear light, and unexpectedly, it was not at a disadvantage at all. Come on, let's fight again. See if I don't kill you today. The old man roared tyrannically. At this time, his tyrannical nature was completely revealed. However, he didn't expect that Yi Shiwen wouldn't be on the same level as him. Yi Shiwen disappeared in midair in a flash. Little bastard, where are you going? He immediately chased after Yi Shiwen, unable to restrain his anger. He did not expect Yi Shiwen to leave just like that. It was simply infuriating. On the other hand, Yi Shiwen's figure was constantly shuttling in the void, avoiding the old man's pursuit. Although his current combat strength was not inferior to the old man's, it was not his original strength, and he could not take down the old man in a short period of time. When the fist incarnation was exhausted, it was inevitable that he would end up in the same situation as Jun Dingtian. Right now, my strength is insufficient. If my strength improved further and reached the peak of the profound death realm intermediate stage, killing this old dog would only be a matter of time. Yi Shiwen thought to himself. The power of the martial arts incarnation was extraordinary. When it was condensed into one, it could be called the best among those of the same level. If it was not for the fact that he had almost reached the profound death realm advanced stage, and that he had tens of thousands of years of cultivation, ordinary profound death realm intermediate stage experts would have been killed by him with a single punch. Yi Shiwen did not know how many space palaces he had shuttled through. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen sensed a delicate fragrance coming directly to his nose. With a thought, he went directly to the palace where the fragrance came from. In this palace there was an incomparably huge blood pool. This blood pool was constantly bubbling, and a powerful force was rolling in it. Yi Shiwen only sensed a delicate fragrance coming to his face, and there was not the slightest bit of the stench of ordinary blood. Hiss, Yi Shiwen, this is blood essence, refined from the blood essence of countless experts. Yi Mo's voice was heard, and even he was a little shocked. Yi Shiwen's eyes immediately lit up. What was blood essence? It was the blood of a person's heart. Even a top expert would not have too much blood essence. It could be said that the blood essence in a person's body was the condensation of all the essence in a person's body. What did it mean to refine countless blood essence? If Yi Shiwen was able to absorb it, his cultivation would probably soar in an instant. Currently, he had already stepped into the intermediate profound death stage. However, he had only just entered the intermediate profound death stage. It was impossible for him to raise his strength to the peak in one go using ordinary method. The only way was to slowly accumulate his strength bit by bit. This was the only way. Wait for me to absorb this blood essence, and my cultivation will improve further. If that old dog dares to chase after me, I will let him die without a burial. Yi Shiwen was immediately overjoyed. Chapter 1960. That's not right. This place has clearly been abandoned for so long. How can there still be so much essence blood? After such a long time, most of the essence blood should have evaporated by now. Yi Mo's voice was heard. There's also the sand-devouring heaven-swallowing beast outside. After such a long time, how does it survive? Although the sand-devouring heaven-swallowing beast was known to devour sand to survive, how much sand would be needed for such a huge creature to survive until now? It would probably devour an entire world. Haha, Yi Shiwen, there is so much essence blood. Just by devouring a portion, you will be able to reach the peak of profound death realm intermediate stage. Wasn't the sword principal doppelganger stuck at the last step? You can completely condense it now. Yi Mo temporarily put these doubts behind him. Yes. Yi Shiwen's face was also filled with uncontrollable joy. This was a huge harvest, much greater than any Xian core. After devouring these essence blood, his life essence would undergo a huge transformation. He did not stop and directly plunged into the essence blood. Immediately, he felt a boundless pressure crushing over. These essence blood were not only essence blood, but also of extremely high quality. It was unknown how many powerful creatures had been slaughtered to form such a huge pool of blood. He immediately activated the observing person scripture. His entire body was like a cosmic vortex as countless essence blood was directly sucked in by him. Ordinary energy would need to be filtered many times to be absorbed. However, these essence blood were the essence of essence. There might only be a few drops of essence blood in one's entire body. One could imagine the level of essence blood. Moreover, Yi Shiwen could feel that these essence blood were at least refined by powerful creatures above the profound death realm after being slaughtered. Although he was a little puzzled as to why there were so many essence blood of existences above the profound death realm here, profound death realm was definitely a big shot in the Xian world. How could so many of them have been slaughtered? However, at this moment, he had completely forgotten about these matters. Boom! 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 The aura of Yi Shiwen's body was soaring along with his continuous breathing and exhaling. His strength continued to soar as he continued to absorb the blood essence. His body had undergone another transformation after stepping into the mid-profound death stage, allowing him to store even more energy. However, it would take him a longer time to do so. Every time they crossed a threshold, they would need a long period of accumulation. Therefore, for ordinary martial artists, even talent was not their natural enemy. Time was their real natural enemy. Time passed minute by minute, second by second, but they were stuck in that realm, unable to advance, and finally exhausted to death. Normally, even if it was a profound core, after being refined countless times, it would still be impossible to completely absorb the spiritual qi, and could only transform it into true essence. If one wanted to transform their body, they could only do so slowly. How could it be like this blood essence, which could be swallowed in one breath? These were the essence blood of profound death stage experts. In fact, he did not even need to refine them in order to devour them in large mouthfuls to increase his strength. He sat cross-legged in the blood pool, seizing every second to increase his strength. At that moment, the old man who had been following them also arrived. Such a large pool of blood essence? Moreover, they are all at the profound death stage. The old man immediately sucked in a breath of cold air, before becoming wild with joy. How could he not know what such a large pool of blood essence meant? After devouring this pool of blood essence, his cultivation would be able to immediately step into the late profound death stage. Moreover, he would be able to step into the peak profound death stage within a short period of time. At that time, he would truly be a peak expert below legendary figures. However, legendary figures were rarely seen. These experts at the peak of the profound death stage were practically the rulers of the entire profound world. Even going one step further, the legend stage was not a delusion. As he thought of this, his expression instantly turned crazy. He did not even care about chasing after Yi Shiwen. What was more important than increasing his own strength? If that little bastard dared to appear in front of him again, he would definitely beat him to death. There's really no such thing as a dead end. Originally, it would be extremely difficult for me to advance further at my age. However, I never imagined that I would have such a fortuitous encounter. Once I absorb all of these blood essence, my name will definitely shake the world. He laughed heartily. He laughed so hard that he could not catch his breath. He was just like young Master Guiyun. It's a pity that you won't have such a chance. Suddenly, an incomparably cold voice rang out from the pool of blood. Who is it? The old man immediately shouted and said. However, he quickly reacted. This voice could not be any more familiar. A figure slowly emerged from the pool of blood essence. Who else could it be other than Yi Shiwen? It's actually you. I can wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find you effortlessly. The old man's face revealed a somewhat malevolent and pleasantly surprised expression. It seems that the heavens really want you dead. They actually allowed you to be caught by me here. I see that you still have no way of escaping. As he spoke, the aura from his body spread out and sealed the entrance of the hall. He did not expect Yi Shiwen to actually escape. This time, he would definitely not give Yi Shiwen any chance. Escape? Who said that I'm going to escape? Yi Shiwen squinted his eyes and said with a smile. He walked out of the pool of blood step by step, and then said with a smile, What a coincidence! You can wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find you effortlessly. In fact, I also wanted to say this sentence just now. It seems that the heavens really want you dead. Don't you think so? Arrogant. Today, I want you to die, the old man roared coldly. His entire person was like a peerless, ferocious beast that had awakened. His aura was monstrous. Boom. The long spear was like a poisonous dragon drilling. In an instant, it directly shot out and blasted through the world. Yi Shiwen was not in a hurry. He directly faced it with his sword. Clang. There was a huge collision sound like that of gold and iron. The powerful collision directly caused waves of ripples that spread out. With a loud bang, cracks appeared in the space. The two were actually evenly matched. Yi Shiwen was not at a disadvantage at all. How is this possible? The old man was instantly incomparably shocked. He had never imagined that things would actually turn out like this. Although Yi Shiwen's cultivation level was already the same as his, they were both in the profound death realm intermediate stage. The gap between them could be as wide as the heavens and the earth, like the clouds and the mud. Yi Shiwen, who had just entered the profound death realm intermediate stage, was able to fight against him without being killed on the spot. Furthermore, Yi Shiwen was evenly matched with him. This was simply like the heavens and earth collapsing. It was simply impossible. Most importantly, Yi Shiwen had yet to fuse with the Fist Dao incarnation. This was the most important thing. Could it be his pupils suddenly shrank? He immediately looked at the blood pool behind him, and his expression immediately turned ugly. He immediately understood how Yi Shiwen's strength had increased so much. He must have absorbed the essence blood in the blood pool. When he thought of this, his expression became even more sinister. He had long regarded the essence blood in the blood pool as his own. At this moment, someone had actually beaten him to it. This feeling was absolutely unbearable. You actually dare to touch it? He was incomparably furious. Yi Shiwen actually dared to touch something that he had already decided on. It was as if he was carving a piece of flesh out of his heart. This is yours. You can talk about this if you can survive. Yi Shiwen sneered. The aura on his body continued to rise, rising bit by bit. It soared all the way to the peak of the profound life realm intermediate stage before barely stopping. Die! The old man let out a deafening roar, and the spear radiance splashed out. The entire world was shaking, and countless laws suddenly surged out. In an instant, the laws of the Spear Dao constructed a brand new world. With a rumble, it crushed towards Yi Shiwen. Old dog, do you still think it's the same as before? Yi Shiwen did not move at all. The long sword in his hand drew an astonishing sword light. In an instant, he attacked. It was just an ordinary sword, but it had the power to collapse the heavens and earth. Rumble! The splashing light from both sides shattered the sky. Everything was directly shattered. Amidst the endless light, Yi Shiwen's sword directly broke through the old man's spear light. His strength became even stronger. Rip! The spear light was torn apart on the spot. The sound was abnormally loud and unpleasant, just like a cloth being torn apart. Clang! The long sword and the long spear collided fiercely in the void. The sound of metal colliding swept out violently. The old man immediately felt a numbness in his arm. His entire perlicue instantly cracked. How can his physical body be so strong? He did not feel like this when he was fighting before. As Yi Shiwen's strength became more and more tyrannical, the people he fought were all powerful existences who had cultivated for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. Unlike his previous opponents, the gap between them was at least dozens of years, and the gap between them was only a few hundred years. Now there was a gap of thousands of years. Tens of thousands of years of accumulation were all concentrated together. Therefore, the advantage of Yi Shiwen's tyrant body could not be fully displayed. However, even so, it was still very shocking. If it was an ordinary person, they would have long been beaten to death by these old monsters. The fact that he was only at a disadvantage was enough to prove his tyrannical strength. Age and accumulation were Yi Shiwen's biggest weaknesses. They were also his biggest shortcomings. This point would be reflected more vividly and vividly as he went up the path. In the past, Yi Shiwen could surpass levels as easily as eating and drinking water. Now it was extremely difficult, because no matter how strong his combat power was, it would be submerged by thousands or tens of thousands of years of cultivation. However, when the skills were comparable, Yi Shiwen's combat power could erupt to a terrifying level. Chapter 1961. The old man felt that his entire arm had gone numb after just a single exchange. This was something that would have been impossible in the past. What kind of monstrous strength was required to achieve such a feat? After cultivating to the profound death realm, one could be said to have the strength to uproot mountains even without the help of any martial arts or magical powers. Furthermore, one's physical body was extremely tyrannical. In the end, they were seriously injured by just a single strike. What kind of terrifying strength was this? This is just the beginning. Yi Shiwen held the longsword in his hand and suddenly stomped his foot. His entire body was like a cannonball as he directly attacked. Swoosh! The sword light was like a galaxy that had fallen into the mortal world. It formed an incomparably huge waterfall as it headed straight for the old man's face. This attack of his was extremely fast. It was also extremely powerful. The snow-white sword light cut through everything. Its power was astonishing. In the blink of an eye, it was like a group of demons and gods were roaring. It directly transformed into a universe on the spot and devoured everything. A horrified look immediately flashed across the old man's eyes. Yi Shiwen's body was filled with an aura that could kill gods and Buddhas. It was shocking and did not give him any chance to react at all. Clang! He only had enough time to retract his long spear and use it to block in front of him. A loud roar resounded as the tip of the sword fiercely touched the body of the long spear. A large portion of the scales on the body of the long spear were instantly shattered. The frightening power also followed the long spear and directly rushed towards the old man's arm. Buzz! He immediately felt that his arm was frantically buzzing. The frequency of the frantic vibration seemed as if it was going to shatter his entire arm. He let out a loud roar and mobilized his real yuan. He forcefully suppressed this wave of power and avoided the misfortune of his entire arm being shattered. His pupils continuously contracted as he panted heavily. There was a stuffy feeling in his chest, as if he was about to spit out a mouthful of blood. A horrified expression finally appeared on his face. In his eyes, the person in front of him was simply not a human. Instead, he was a monster in human skin. Yes, he was a monster. His physical body had almost been smashed into smithereens, and he hadn't been hit directly. If he had been hit directly, the consequences would have been unimaginable. How did he do it? How could he be so terrifying? Just a moment ago, his strength was far inferior to mine. How did he become so terrifying in such a short period of time? Moreover, he had only arrived a little later, not too late at all. How could he have become like this? His strength had made an earth-shattering improvement. This was illogical. How was that? Do you still think I want to escape? Yi Shiwen sneered. He opened his mouth, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. In the eyes of that old man, it was simply a devil's smile. If you run away now, maybe it's not too late, Yi Shiwen said with a faint smile. The old man's complexion turned ashen as he looked at Yi Shiwen. He wished that he could swallow Yi Shiwen alive. Yi Shiwen had dared to humiliate him with such words. When the young master finds you, it will be the time of your death, he said viciously. Even so, you won't be able to hold on until then. Moreover, do you think I will let him get what he wants? Yi Shiwen said coldly. No matter what young Master Ghost Fortune wanted this time, he would never let him get what he wanted. Didn't you say that young Master Ghost Luck can absorb the luck of others for his own use? I want to see if he will be so lucky this time. Impossible, you won't be able to stop it in time, the old man sneered. He only thought that Yi Shiwen was delusional. You reminded me that I don't have much time left. I have to get rid of you as soon as possible and then find young Master Ghost Luck, Yi Shiwen said coldly. You? The old man was exasperated. He didn't expect that Yi Shiwen could actually find out from his words that young Master Ghost Luck probably didn't have time to solve the problem. If you want to go over, then step over my dead body. The old man narrowed his eyes and said coldly. His whole body began to release a kind of blood-red light, like a kind of innate demon god. The long spear in his hand was like a dragon, and it was unknown whether it was millions of kilograms or tens of millions of kilograms. At this time, all of it emitted a shocking power, smashing everything in its way, and directly blasted towards Yi Shiwen. In the distance, someone's expression changed drastically. He didn't know who had such terrifying power. He fought and roared, and his murderous aura surged. It could be said that he had done his best to attack. At this time, how could he dare to hold back at all? It was equivalent to courting death. Gotcha! Even the space was crushed and shattered by an invisible pressure. How terrifying was this spear! Want to overturn the sky? No way! Yi Shiwen's eyes turned cold, and then he directly rushed out. His sword split the sky and slashed down fiercely. Bang! There was another huge explosion. The moment the two sides collided, the old man's hands exploded with a loud bang. How could the power of Yi Shiwen's gilded tyrant form be ordinary? It directly passed through the long spear, and fiercely bombarded the old man's arms. The old man's palms exploded with a loud bang, and turned into a bloody mess. Puff! Finally, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his whole body retreated dozens of steps before he could barely stop himself. His eyes were filled with incomparable horror. He finally understood what kind of monster he had provoked. It was fine if such a monster hadn't grown up, but once he did, he would definitely become young Master Ghost Luck's most powerful enemy. I'll fight you to the death. A hint of fierceness flashed in his eyes. No matter what, he had to drag Yi Shiwen down with him. Clang! The spear light was like a dragon, directly smashing everything and pressing towards Yi Shiwen. Blood broke out in the void, turning into a law talisman, and its power became even more powerful. Still don't understand? You are still far from it. Yi Shiwen sneered. He directly took a step forward and slashed down with his sword. Clang! There was a deafening roar, and the long spear couldn't resist Yi Shiwen's monstrous strength. It directly shattered, and the remaining two pieces directly flew out of the old man's hand. It looked extremely terrifying. Blood splattered and flesh and bones scattered. I'll finish you with another sword. The old man's whole body flew out, and he didn't even have time to regain his balance in midair. He only heard a cold shout, and a sword light tore through the sky, like a waterfall, and ruthlessly slashed at his body. Bang! The old man's body directly exploded on the spot, turning into a cloud of blood mist. He was completely not Yi Shiwen's opponent. After Yi Shiwen used his full strength, he didn't even have the strength to fight back. The sky full of blood mist didn't have time to disperse, and the exploded martial power was absorbed by Yi Shiwen, consolidating his current realm. Moreover, the wealth of millions of Xiandong also fell into Yi Shiwen's hands. Although it was nothing compared to the millions of Xiandong that Yi Shiwen had consumed before, but it was still not a small amount of wealth. Yi Shiwen's face beamed with joy. The old man didn't know if he had cultivated for thousands of years, or even tens of thousands of years, to reach his current strength, but Yi Shiwen had now almost leaped up. It was completely conceivable that after absorbing the blood essence, he had saved a lot of hard work. Of course, this was also because the old man was stuck in this realm, but according to Yi Shiwen's own estimation, if he didn't have a fortuitous encounter, and practiced normally, it would take at least a few decades, or even a few hundred years, to reach this realm, but he didn't expect to achieve it overnight. One could imagine the huge harvest this time. It was much greater than the 20 million Xiandong he had gained in the lava dimension. Most importantly, even though Yi Shiwen had stepped into the peak of the intermediate profound death realm in one go, he had only consumed about 1/10 of the blood essence in this blood pool. This was because the capacity of Yi Shiwen's body far exceeded that of an ordinary intermediate profound death realm expert. If it was an ordinary intermediate profound death realm expert, perhaps he wouldn't even need to consume 1/100th of the blood essence. After all, this blood essence was refined from the hearts of experts above the profound death realm, and any drop of it was countless times more precious than treasured medicines in the outside world. With this pool of blood essence, Yi Shiwen was confident that he could break into a higher realm in one go in a short period of time, and even the myth realm might not be impossible. With this pool of blood essence, it will be much more convenient in the future, and I might even be able to break into the advanced profound death realm in one go. It won't take more than a few years, and it won't matter if I don't go to the nameless Tao Academy. Yi Shiwen said happily. Yi Shiwen, you can't think that way. You've just stepped into the intermediate profound death stage, and you want to step into the late profound death stage in one go. This kind of foundation isn't solid enough. If you want to break into the legend stage, your foundation is more than enough. However, if you want to prove your Tao, your foundation is still far from enough. There have been so many outstanding people in the past, but only a handful have been able to prove their Tao. In fact, there are many geniuses among them. On the other hand, there aren't those who have walked step by step and only obtained their Tao in their later years. Why? The difference lies in your foundation. If you want to advance further, you must build a stronger foundation than anyone else. You have just stepped into the intermediate profound death realm, and you want to step into the advanced profound death realm in one go. This kind of foundation isn't stable, and it is more than enough for you to break into the myth realm. However, if you want to prove your Tao, it is still far from enough. How many outstanding people have proven their Tao in the past, and how many of them have proven their Tao? In fact, there are many geniuses among them, but none of them have succeeded in advancing step by step, and only attained the Tao in their later years. Why? Then what should I do? Yi Shiwen asked. You should know that my enemies will only grow stronger in the future. If I don't grow quickly, I'm afraid that it won't be long before I'm killed by them. Chapter 1962. Whether it was the Divine Union or the Heaven Wasteland Hall, there were many experts in Cloud Beyond City. Even though Yi Mo's strength had improved greatly and he could protect himself, it was still impossible for him to kill Elder Xianting, who had been seriously injured by him. Unless he used the Ghost Heart Flame Array again or the Emergence Immortal Exterminating Saber, the price of these two methods would be very high. The most cost-effective method was naturally to increase his own strength. Furthermore, he might have to face a terrifying existence like the Divine Union's leader in the future, as well as the Abyssal Demon Master, who was an invincible legend in the mythical realm. Even if he used the Ghost Heart Flame Array, he still wouldn't be a match for them. These matters were like a sharp sword hanging over his head, constantly reminding him that his life could be taken away by these people at any time, so he did not dare to relax for even a moment. For the vast majority of cultivators, time could be said to be sufficient, but it could also be said to be insufficient. Even if he was a human, he still had at least 8,000 to 9,000 years of life left. Given his current foundation, even if he cultivated step by step, he was confident that he could become an invincible figure like the Divine Union's leader in a few thousand years. However, by that time it would be too late. Who knew how powerful the Divine Union's leader or the Abyssal Demon Master would become? He didn't have that much time to waste. Furthermore, the premise was that he could cultivate step by step under the hands of these powerful and terrifying experts for a few thousand years. These matters forced him to focus on his own cultivation bit by bit. He didn't dare to relax for a moment. "Don't worry," Emo said, "it's not your style to be greedy and advance rashly. Although ordinary people think that you've been advancing rapidly, you've always controlled your progress and built a very solid foundation. This is only according to my requirements. If you were an ordinary person, you wouldn't need such a solid foundation. Your son might have already entered the mythical realm by now. However, there are disadvantages and advantages. It's precisely because of this solid foundation that you can fight against those who have cultivated for thousands or even tens of thousands of years more than you. Time is what you lack the most, so you can only make up for it in other aspects. You'd better spend a few more years to consolidate this breakthrough. Otherwise, if you break through again, I'm afraid it will affect your future cultivation foundation. Some things can't be rushed." Yi Shiwen remained silent for a moment. It wasn't that he didn't know what Emo had said. In fact, he was very clear about it. It was just that the current situation didn't give him the opportunity to do things step by step. Instead, it forced him to move forward at a rapid speed. It was like a man running at a fast pace. A big wolf dog would bite him from behind if he were to slow down even a little. This was how Yi Shiwen felt right now. He didn't dare to stop for even a moment. It's best for you to consolidate your cultivation. However, it's not impossible for you to improve your fighting strength. Emo said. "What is it?" Yi Shiwen's eyes lit up as he asked. It wasn't a big problem for him not to make a breakthrough in his cultivation. What he was truly worried about was that he couldn't make a breakthrough in his fighting strength. This was the real problem. That is to form a second martial arts avatar. With your current strength, you are already invincible within the intermediate profound death stage. Even those old monsters who have trained for thousands of years are no match for you. If you were to merge with the Fist Arts avatar, you would even be able to defeat someone like Jun Dingtian. You would even be able to escape from experts at the advanced profound death stage. You would not need to pay such a huge price to escape from Elder Xian Ting. Emo slowly said. However, if you merge with a second martial arts avatar, your strength will completely break through the barrier of the late profound death stage. In fact, you might even be able to match a peak late profound death stage expert. However, if your opponent also condenses a martial arts avatar, you won't be their match. Yi Shiwen was overjoyed when he heard this. He knew very little about the power of the second martial Dao incarnation because he had yet to condense the second martial Dao incarnation. He was surprised that the second martial Dao incarnation could allow him to defeat an enemy who was an entire realm higher than him. Such combat power was completely beyond his expectations. As for the possibility that his opponent had also condensed a martial arts avatar, there was nothing he could do about it. However, how many of such people were there? Those who could condense a martial arts avatar were extremely rare. Through this method, even if his cultivation level didn't increase, his fighting strength would increase by an astonishing amount in a short period of time. This was enough to help him defeat even more powerful enemies. At the same time, it wouldn't affect his current foundation. The condensation of a martial arts avatar could be said to defy the heavens and change one's fate. No one knew who created this technique, but it was truly terrifying. However, you have to be clear about one thing. The energy required to use two martial arts avatars at the same time can be said to be several times more than the energy required to fuse with a martial arts avatar. If you're not careful, you'll go bankrupt. You won't even have enough Xian cores, said Yimo. Yishiwen exhaled and calmed down. Although the martial arts incarnation didn't have any sequelae, but in the end it still had such a big drawback. It was impossible to be perfect, but this was enough. It was enough to become a trump card that he could use at a critical time. Xian cores, Xian cores. His eyes were flashing with a fiery desire, and he couldn't wait to collect all the Xian cores in the world. He had thought that 20 million Xian cores was almost comparable to those legendary figures, but in the end, he discovered that it was just a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. He had only used the Ghost Heart Flame Array once, but it had already consumed so much Xian cores, so how much would he be able to afford in the future? As for the blood essence in this pool, although it could also be replenished, he couldn't bear to use it in a place like this. Unless he stepped into the legendary realm, where else could he go to kill so many profound Death Realm experts and refine so much Xian cores? With a glance, he didn't know how many profound Death Realm experts had died. Even if there weren't 1,000, there were at least 800. Just the thought of such a number sent chills down his spine. He didn't know when this evil cult had collected so many Xian cores, and also didn't know why so many Xian cores had not been used up until now. However, at this moment, he couldn't care so much. Condensing a sword doppelganger was already an urgent matter. He had to raise his agenda. Because of the difficulty of condensing the doppelganger, he wasn't in too much of a hurry. Now that he couldn't increase his realm, this became a necessary method. Above his head, the Tianyuan mirror directly flew out and shot out a ball of blood light. In an instant, the Xian blood in the blood pool was directly absorbed into the Tianyuan mirror. Yimo, how long do you need to completely control that physical body? Yishiwen asked. He had a premonition that if Yimo controlled the physical body of the Lord of Darkness, he would definitely be a peerless demon that could shake the world once he attacked. Even if he didn't have any martial arts, an ordinary legendary realm expert wouldn't be a match for a deity-level physical body. At that time, for him, it was tantamount to having a super protective talisman. It won't take too long, hee. Yimo said with a strange smile. When I come out, I will personally crush the head of the Abyss Demon Lord. Yimo's words were filled with hostility. He was still brooding over Yulian's death. If he couldn't personally kill the Abyss Demon Lord, he might not be able to rest in peace for the rest of his life. Apart from this matter, there was nothing else that could make this old demon who had lived for hundreds of millions of years so worried. At this time, Yishiwen thought of the young Kuan Peng and the Star Beast avatar that were still in the Demon Monarch's treasure house. That Star Beast avatar could almost swallow the entire world in one bite when it was at its peak. The true martial school was incomparably prosperous in the past, and they even had a great killing weapon like the true martial stone sword. However, even they had declined and could only barely seal it. One could imagine how terrifying it was. They were both ancient ferocious beasts, but compared to the cunning Star Beast, the sand-devouring heaven-swallowing beast outside the temple was just an immature hairy doll. There was also the young Kuan Peng. He didn't know what was wrong with the way he opened it. The Kuan Peng, who had been famous for countless years and was the leader of the top 10 vicious beasts, was actually raised into a foodie by him. Every time he thought of that round, rolling body, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If the old Koan Peng knew about it, he would probably come to the Xian world to kill him on the spot. The Koan Peng bloodline was once invincible in the world. Even after the old Koan Peng had laid eggs and was extremely weak, it almost uprooted the ancestral land of the Jiao Ying clan. One could imagine how fierce it was. He felt ashamed that such a fierce, vicious beast was raised into a foodie by him. He didn't know if the way he opened it was wrong, or if the way he raised it was wrong, or if the Koan Peng was actually a foodie when it was young. Anyway, before him, no one had ever caught a wild Koan Peng alive and raised it. This kind of ancient vicious beast, even when it was at its weakest, was not something that ordinary people could provoke. In the eyes of many people, the Jiao Ying Demon King's action of plucking a tooth from a tiger's mouth was no different from seeking death. He could be considered the first master of the Koan Peng. No one had ever succeeded before. No one knew what the Koan Peng was like when it was young. All the Koan Pengs that people had seen were the ones that could swallow the sky in one gulp after they grew up. Therefore, although he felt that it shouldn't be like this, he had no other choice but to let it go. The most important thing now is to find young Master Gui Yun. No matter what he wants, I must not let him succeed. Chapter 1963. A stern look flashed across Yi Shiwen's eyes. No matter what, young Master Ghost Fortune had tried to attack him several times. He must have regarded Yi Shiwen as someone who must be killed. In that case, Yi Shiwen would not let young Master Ghost Fortune have an easy time. Yi Shiwen was still not strong enough to kill young Master Ghost Fortune, but he would not let young Master Ghost Fortune have an easy time. At least, he could cause trouble for young Master Ghost Fortune. From the words of the old man, Yi Shiwen knew that young Master Ghost Fortune must be planning something big. However, he did not know how far the plan had progressed. It was not easy to snatch food from a profound Death Realm expert's mouth. However, he naturally had something to rely on. Even if he could not snatch food from the tiger's mouth, he was confident that he could retreat safely. Therefore, he wanted to give it a try. Thinking of this, he didn't hesitate. He went straight out of the palace and released his divine sense. However, he soon discovered that the entire temple seemed to be shrouded by some strange array. Therefore, he couldn't spread his divine sense too far. He could only spread it out within a radius of 1,000 meters. However, such a small distance wasn't even as far as his naked eye could see. His divine sense was almost completely crippled in this place. He had no choice but to slowly search through the palaces one by one. Along the way, all kinds of dark creatures emerged. Yi Shiwen did not know what kind of cult it was to raise so many dark creatures. It was simply shocking. Yi Shiwen didn't know how long he had been searching. He had encountered many experts of various races along the way. Many people couldn't help but hide in fear when they saw him. It wasn't that no one hadn't seen the battle where he had defeated Niu Xing. Although he couldn't defeat young Master Gui Yun, it was more than enough to deal with them. There were also some who did not have eyes and wanted to attack Yi Shiwen. However, they were defeated by Yi Shiwen in a few moves. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen heard a commotion. He looked over and saw two groups of 10 people standing opposite each other. On one side were Bai Jianxing, Yun Ro, and Yi Shan, whom he had just met. On the other side were 7 knights. Each of the 7 knights looked ferocious. Yi Shiwen did not know which clan they were from, but they looked very terrifying. Most importantly, the weakest amongst the 7 knights was actually at the initial profound death stage. Their leader was a powerful existence who had already stepped into the peak of the intermediate profound death stage. He was not inferior to the old man from before. Bai Jianxing, obediently hand over the Hunyuan fruit, and we'll leave your corpse intact. Among the 7 knights, one of them laughed sinisterly as he urged his horse forward. Despicable! You people actually took advantage of Brother Bai's breakthrough to chase after us. Yunro angrily rebuked. Little girl, don't be too arrogant. After we kill Bai Jianxing and this brat, I'll let you know what a real man is. The knight laughed lewdly and cackled. Behind him, the rest of the people began to smirk. You all? Yunro was furious, but there was nothing she could do. Every single one of these people was far stronger than her. Even if she used all her strength and joined hands with Yishan, they would not be a match for any one of these 7 people. If Bai Jianxing was still here, there might be a way. However, Bai Jianxing was currently in the midst of a breakthrough and could not move his body at all. Otherwise, his entire body might explode on the spot. Bai Jianxing is in the midst of a breakthrough. Could it be that his Dao injury has already healed? Yi Shiwen was somewhat puzzled. Although he had not witnessed Bai Jianxing's strength, he could tell from the little bit of aura that he had revealed that he was not a simple person. Bai Jianxing had already shaken the entire Xian world 1,000 years ago. If not for his Dao injury, he would most likely be an incomparably powerful existence now. Due to the existence of his Dao injury, it was useless no matter how many treasures he had consumed or how talented he was. Now that he had broken through, there was only one possibility. The Dao injury on his body had already healed. Yi Shiwen was sincerely happy about this. Regardless of whether it was from a personal point of view or from the perspective of the human race, it was a great thing that his Dao injury had been healed. Old 7, don't waste time with him. Bai Jianxing, if you don't hand over the Hunyuan fruit, don't blame me for being impolite. The leader of the 7 horsemen, who was riding a purple ferocious beast that exuded the power of thunder, stepped forward and said lightly. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and glared angrily. He shouted, "You have actually swallowed the Hunyuan fruit. Damn it, it seems that you haven't swallowed it for long. Brothers, capture him for me. I will put him into the medicine furnace and refine him into a living human medicine. I will refine the medicinal power of the Hunyuan fruit out of his body." 7 cavalrymen of the blood pirates, why do you have to be so aggressive? We humans are not to be trifled with. Even if you have the immemorial fruit, it's useless. It's a life-saving medicine for Brother Bai, but it shouldn't be of any use to you. Why do you have to be so hostile? Yishan forced himself to calm down and said as he stepped forward. Yishan and Yunro were both well-protected flowers in a greenhouse. In the past, Bai Jianxing had been in charge of everything. So, he naturally didn't need to care so much. But now, Bai Jianxing couldn't move at all. He was the only man here, so he had no choice but to step forward and say, "For others, the Hunyuan fruit may be useless. If it was someone else, I might not have to deal with you. After all, the human race is not to be trifled with. I don't necessarily want to be your enemy. However, I am determined to get this Hunyuan fruit. I am not afraid to tell you that I also have a Dao injury. You should know what a Dao injury means to a warrior. Now, do you still think that I will let you go?" The leader of the 7 horsemen of the blood pirates stepped forward and said indifferently. His eyes were incomparably fierce like those of a wolf. Anyone who looked at him would feel a chill run down their spine. "What? You also have a Dao injury?" Yishan suddenly fell into despair. Although the human race had been suppressed miserably by the demon race, the 7 horsemen of the blood pirates couldn't be compared to them. If the human race was truly enraged, they would send a large number of experts to completely annihilate them. However, that was under normal circumstances. Although a Dao injury wouldn't kill a warrior, it was more terrifying than death. This was because they wouldn't be able to make any progress in their entire life. This was no different from being sentenced to death. Anything that could heal Dao injuries would cause these people to go crazy. For example, Bai Jianxing clearly knew that he might be recognized by young Master Gui Yun and that he might be killed by him, but he still didn't want to give up. He would rather take a huge risk and come back to search for Bai Jianxing. Why? It was because of this Dao injury. Therefore, the 7 horsemen of the blood pirates wouldn't let them go. If Bai Jianxing hadn't swallowed the Hunyuan fruit, then everything would be fine. He might be able to keep his life if he handed over the Hunyuan fruit. However, the Hunyuan fruit had already been swallowed. Given the ruthlessness of the 7 horsemen of the blood pirates, it wasn't impossible for them to refine a living person into a human medicine. No, it should be said that they would definitely do it. Yes, I also have a Dao injury. Therefore, I will never give up on this Hunyuan fruit. The leader of the 7 horsemen of the blood pirates said in a very strange voice. You should be obedient and go on your way. Old 7, go and send them on their way. The leader of the 7 horsemen of the blood pirates looked at them coldly, as if he was looking at a dead person. There wasn't the slightest fluctuation in his eyes. No problem, boss. Just watch me. The leader of the 7 horsemen of the blood pirates moved his horse forward. A long spear suddenly appeared in his hand. He faced it from a distance and was actually accumulating power. He wasn't in a hurry to attack. He was an expert at the initial profound death realm. It was too easy for him to deal with 2 profound life realm experts. Bai Jianxing couldn't move at all. Let's fight it out with him. Yun Ro bit her lower lip and said. Her eyes were already filled with despair. Instead of being humiliated by them, it was better to fight a bloody battle. Even if she died in battle, it wouldn't matter. Boom! The 2 of them took the initiative and directly attacked the old 7 of the 7 horsemen of the blood pirate. The old 7 of the 7 horsemen of the blood pirates didn't panic. He directly stabbed out with his spear. The long spear was like a poisonous dragon drill, instantly breaking through the attacks of the 2 of them. The terrifying power directly bombarded the 2 of them and directly sent them flying. Bang! Bang! The 2 of them were instantly sent flying. They violently smashed into the wall of the great hall, creating a huge pit. Only then did they fall to the ground. The difference in strength between the 2 parties was too great. The difference between the profound life stage and the profound death stage was like the difference between heaven and earth. Furthermore, the 2 of them weren't even at the peak of the profound life stage. This difference was simply too great. The old 7 of the 7 horsemen of the blood pirates couldn't be bothered to care about the 2 of them. In his heart, the 2 of them were easily killed. It was better to kill Bai Jianxing first to prevent the situation from repeating itself. Go and die. We'll meet again in our next lives. He stared malevolently at Bai Jianxing, revealing a cruel smile. The long spear in his hand did not stop for even a moment as it instantly rumbled towards Bai Jianxing. Swish! Suddenly, a ray of sword light shot across the sky from a distant place. Like a golden waterfall, it slid down from the sky and directly headed towards the old 7 of the 7 horsemen of the blood pirates. Who? The old 7 of the 7 horsemen of the blood pirates hastily reacted and raised his spear to block. Clang! An incomparably loud bang sounded. The hands of the old 7 of the 7 horsemen of the blood pirates directly exploded on the spot. The incomparably handsome horse under his feet immediately let out a blood-curdling screech. Its 4 hooves were directly broken, and all 4 of its legs were completely broken. It fiercely crashed onto the ground. Chapter 1964. Blood suddenly splashed out. That incomparably spirited horse let out a blood-curdling screech. He was not an ordinary horse. He was also a cultivator. However, under the terrifying crushing power of this sword, his 4 legs were almost directly broken on the spot. Afterwards, he immediately stopped breathing. The terrifying power had directly crushed all of his organs and even his soul to smithereens. The mount of the 7th brother of the 7 cavalrymen of the blood bandits had exploded on the spot. One could imagine how powerful and terrifying this attack was. The seventh brother of the 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits was not much better. Both of his palms had completely exploded. It was as if he had been detonated. He suddenly screamed and lay on the ground. Before everyone could react, they saw another sword light flashing over. It was even faster than lightning. In an instant, another sword light slashed towards the 7th brother of the 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits. Bang! The 7th brother of the 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits was chopped in half on the spot. His blood spurted out like a pillar and splashed everywhere. His split body still had an incredulous look on his face. He couldn't believe that this unforeseen event had happened so quickly. He wanted to kill Bai Jianxing as soon as possible to avoid any unexpected event. However, the unforeseen event had indeed happened. All of this happened in an instant. Even the other members of the 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits didn't have time to react. At this moment, everyone's first reaction was that their scalps were numb. What kind of power was this? Yi Shan and Yun Ro were also completely dumbfounded. Both of them had already given up all hope and had accepted their fate. Who knew that there would suddenly be such an unforeseen event at this time? And most importantly, they couldn't be more familiar with this sword light. They suddenly remembered it. They looked up and sure enough, in the distant void, there was a figure that seemed slow but was actually very fast. He crossed the vast sky and arrived in front of them in an instant. Who else could it be but Yi Shiwen? Brother Yi! Brother Yi! Both of them suddenly shouted in surprise. They didn't expect that Yi Shiwen would rescue them from the most dangerous situation in their most desperate time. 7th brother! 7th brother! Damn it! The 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits finally reacted at this time. They shouted hastily. They were about to go crazy. The 7 brothers had been together for countless years. They were as close as brothers. At this time, seeing their brothers of thousands of years die just like that, they were filled with grief and indignation. Their eyes were wide open, and tears of blood were about to flow out. They were furious to the extreme. They almost instinctively attacked Yi Shiwen on the spot. They wanted to kill him. However, Yi Shiwen didn't even have the interest to say a word to them. He directly chopped out with his sword. This time, it was even faster than before, and directly rushed towards one of the experts of the 7 cavalries of Blood Bandits. It was the 4th brother of the Blood Pirates' 7 cavalries. He was the closest to Yi Shiwen and was the first to arrive at this moment. The formidable might of the initial profound death realm landed in front of Yi Shiwen. Bang! Yi Shiwen's sword directly shattered all the defenses on his body. All the defensive instruments on his body were completely shattered in an instant. They could not resist Yi Shiwen's shocking sword at all. Ah! The 4th brother let out a blood-curdling scream. His face was completely pale. He didn't even have the time to react. He wanted to block Yi Shiwen's attack, but it was too late. Puchi! The long sword pierced through the sky, and directly drew a shocking line of blood across his neck. Goo goo! Blood spurted out like a pillar. The 4th brother's head was sent flying by Yi Shiwen's sword. He died on the spot, and the entire scene was dripping with blood. The face of the head that was sent flying by Yi Shiwen was filled with endless fear. In that instant, all the viciousness and anger had disappeared. All that was left was boundless fear. How could someone be so powerful? He was at the peak of the initial profound death realm. How could he be sent flying by a single sword strike? He didn't even have the strength to fight back. How could such a person become an enemy? Everyone was stunned. Even the remaining 5 members of the 7 cavalries of the Blood Bandits were shocked as they roared angrily. In the blink of an eye, another member of the 7 cavalries of the Blood Bandits had died. The 7 of them were as close as brothers, and had experienced thousands of battles. They had grown from a nobody to their current level. They had experienced countless hardship. Only these 7 of them were left of the original group, which made their friendship even stronger than gold. They had gone through so many storms and waves. Today they had actually failed here. They had actually died at the hands of this person. They were simply going crazy. They were furious. All of them roared angrily and charged towards Yi Shiwen again. This time, no one dared to charge like before. As they charged, they threw various kinds of instruments at Yi Shiwen. They were like falling stars from outer space, bringing with them boundless radiance. The radiance was incomparably dazzling as they bombarded towards Yi Shiwen. They had probably never imagined that such a thing would happen. They had always been the ones slaughtering others. Since when could others actually slaughter them? This was simply impossible. Don't let him escape. I want to tear his body into pieces. We must not let him escape. At this moment, the leader of the Blood Bandits' 7 cavalries had already gone completely crazy. He had already fallen into a state of madness after witnessing his 2 brothers, who were as close as brothers, die. He no longer had much rationality left. Otherwise, he would have known what kind of terrifying existence it was to be able to casually kill 2 early profound death stage experts. Humph! Who do you think is leaving? Yi Shiwen sneered. Countless long swords began to condense into an incomparably huge sword in his hand, after which it directly collided with the martial arts torrent and instruments of the 5 people. Buried heaven sword. Rumble. Amidst a series of violent explosions, the entire horizon was completely shattered by this boundless pressure. The instruments and martial arts torrent that were rushing towards Yi Shiwen were also completely disintegrated by this buried heaven sword. The long sword drew a huge golden line and instantly shattered the sky. Not a single one of them fell. Even the distant palaces could feel the tremors here. It was simply incomparably terrifying. The entire sky was trembling crazily. This sword had almost dissolved all of the attacks into nothingness. It was like a comet crashing into the earth, setting off perilous waves. Damn it, damned human. You actually dared to kill the 4th and 7th brother. I will definitely tear your body into pieces and swallow you alive. The leader of the 7 cavalries of the Blood Bandits opened his ferocious mouth. His mouth was filled with sharp teeth and a foul stench assaulted everyone's faces. Kill. However, the silence of these people only lasted for a moment. They immediately reacted and rushed towards Yi Shiwen with all their might. All kinds of attacks surrounded Yi Shiwen and bombarded him. 1,000 deaths will not be enough to make up for your sins. The leader of the 7 cavalries of the Blood Bandits let out a huge roar and an incomparably huge blood blade appeared in his hand. At this time, it tore the heaven and earth apart with a clanging sound. Its power was infinite. He finally attacked. His blade momentum was like a mountain, like a star, and it cleaved downward. He and the purple thunder beast he was riding on were like devils descending from the sky to kill Yi Shiwen. At this time, he didn't look like a bandit who had been causing trouble for many years. On the contrary, he looked like a general with endless power. Shwa! The blood chi and the saber light covered the sky and the earth, turning into a huge Azura battlefield. Countless screams and screams could be heard in the Azura battlefield. This was his saber intent. It was extremely terrifying. It was unknown how many people he had slaughtered in order to form such a mighty force. At this time, the other members of the 7 cavalries of the Blood Bandits, who were attacking Yi Shiwen, revealed a look of relief. This was because they knew very well that their leader was many times stronger than them. It wasn't as simple as his cultivation level being higher than theirs. If it wasn't for that damn Dao injury, their leader might have already stepped into the advanced profound death stage. He would have been many times stronger than he was now. Now, even if he hadn't stepped into the advanced profound death stage, an ordinary intermediate profound death stage expert wouldn't even be able to block a single blade attack from him. That was why everyone was so furious. They didn't expect that someone would be able to kill 2 people in front of their leader. This had completely exceeded their expectations. Originally, they thought that their leader would be able to block it in time. Who would have thought that the speed of Yi Shiwen's attack was so fast that no one could react in time? As the blade descended, the sound of space shattering suddenly rang out. Just the pressure from the blade alone had already caused the entire void to explode. This strength was even more terrifying than the old man that Yi Shiwen had just killed. It was as if he had clearly stepped into the advanced profound death stage, but had retreated in the end. Only then would he feel this way. If it was the previous Yi Shiwen, he might not be a match for the blood bandits of the Blood Bandit. Even after fusing with the Fist Dao incarnation, he would only be able to barely contend against the blood bandits of the Blood Bandit. However, things were different now. Even an intermediate profound death stage expert would find it hard to be a match for him. The heavy sword has no edge. Great skill but no skill. Buried earth sword. Yi Shiwen shouted loudly. The long sword in his hand suddenly shot out again. An astonishing sword light shot out to meet the blade. Rumble! An incomparably huge collision sound resounded in the nearby palaces. Many people heard it. Endless shock waves spread out, causing the surrounding walls of the palaces that were fixed by the matrix to begin to tremble violently. One could imagine how terrifying the power of this blow was. Thump, thump, thump. The leader of the 7 cavalries of the Blood Bandits took a few steps back. Chapter 1965. At this moment, it was unknown how many of the arrays in the palace had shattered. If not for the arrays absorbing the shockwaves from the exchange, not to mention the palace itself, the entire palace complex would have collapsed. This was the shockwave from the exchange between 2 terrifying profound death stage experts. Thump, thump, thump. The boss of the 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits retreated a few steps before he managed to stop himself and unload the force from his feet. The purple thunder beast he was riding on was roaring non-stop, and its legs were trembling. In the collision just now, all the power had poured into its body, and its leg was almost broken on the spot, just like the horse it was riding on. On the other hand, Yi Shiwen's body did not move at all. He was as tyrannical as a devil god that had been resurrected from the ancient times. What? Impossible! How could he block Boss's attack? Furthermore, Boss is actually not his match and is in a disadvantageous position. Just how powerful is his physical body? The 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits were completely stunned. They were completely petrified. This was because no one knew their boss's strength better than them. Within the same realm, they had never seen anyone who could block a single attack from their boss. Even if it was an ordinary intermediate profound death stage expert, they would not be able to deal with them. However, to their boss, they were existences that could be killed with a single slash. This is impossible. We must have seen wrongly. This is simply a joke. An ordinary profound death stage expert would have been cut into 2 on the spot with that slash. How could this brat take it? That's right. This guy is called Yi Shiwen, right? We have clearly seen him before. His strength should have just entered the profound death stage. It is impossible for him to be Boss's match. How could he be so powerful? The 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Previously, they had seen Yi Shiwen's appearance when he killed Niu Xing in the Earthen City. Although they had seen it, they did not think that there would be any complications. It was fine that they had seen Yi Shiwen's strength. At that time, their boss was very confident that killing Yi Shiwen would not be a problem at all. Who would have thought that when he really fought, it would be completely different from what they had expected? They were not a match for him at all and were defeated on the spot. Even their boss was at a complete disadvantage and was not a match for him at all. He actually blocked it. He's simply inhuman. While they were discussing, Yi Shiwen had already begun to move. His figure was like a bolt of lightning, constantly shuttling in the void, avoiding their attacks. The martial arts torrent that they had attacked previously could not cause any trouble to Yi Shiwen at all. Whoosh! By the time they reacted, Yi Shiwen had already arrived in front of the sixth brother of the Blood Bandit. The sixth brother of the 7 Blood Bandits didn't even have the time to react. He only saw Yi Shiwen's long sword streaking across the void, directly setting off a bloody flower. A bloody line suddenly appeared on his neck, and blood gushed out like a fountain. His head suddenly flew out, and it didn't look any different from the previous 7 Blood Bandit. One slash, another slash. An initial profound death stage expert died at Yi Shiwen's hands. Sixth brother. The remaining 4 members of the 7 Blood Bandits immediately cried out in grief. They had never imagined that things would turn out like this. They had definitely committed many evil deeds in their daily lives, and had done countless atrocities. Therefore, they were called the 7 Blood Bandits, meaning that their entire bodies were dyed red with blood. They didn't care about being called the 7 Blood Bandits at all. In fact, they were even somewhat proud of themselves, and had even taken this title as their own. They had always taken pleasure in killing, but they had never taken pleasure in being killed. At this moment, they finally understood the feelings of those who had been exterminated by them. They had watched their companions die tragically in front of them. What was that feeling of despair? What did it feel like to watch their companions die in front of them? What did it feel like? At this moment, Yi Shan and Yun Ro were staring blankly at the golden figure in the void. The peerlessly tyrannical figure didn't have many dazzling sword moves. It was just an ordinary move. It was simple and direct, but its power was so great that it could scare people to death. Its speed was extremely fast, and it was simply as fast as lightning. They finally understood what it meant by speed is unbeatable in all the martial arts under the heavens meant. At this moment, Yi Shiwen was like a real Azura who was numb to killing. Originally, when Yi Shiwen said that he had killed at least 8 million demon race experts, they thought that he was joking. 10 million and 8 million demon race experts. How could someone kill so many demon race experts? It wasn't that they hadn't killed people along the way. On the contrary, many people had died in their hands. However, their strength was far inferior to that of Yi Shiwen and Bai Jianxing. Therefore, their imposing aura was much worse than that of Yi Shiwen and Bai Jianxing. They were like greenhouse flowers. They had never seen such a murderous Azura. How many people must he have killed in order to accumulate such a murderous aura? Was this still the same big brother Yi who was laughing and joking with Bai Jianxing in front of them? It was as if he was a completely different person. Perhaps he was not lying when he said that he had killed many demon race experts. It was very likely that he was telling the truth. However, the two of them didn't feel the slightest fear. On the contrary, they were even more excited. The demon race had been bullying the human race in the Xian world for a long time. The conflict between the two races was like a barrel of gunpowder that could explode at any moment. For them, the more they killed, the more heroic they would be. Not to mention, at this time, Yi Shiwen was their only hope for survival. The stronger such a person was, the better it would be for them. The same thought popped up in their minds. Perhaps in their eyes, Brother Bai, who was as brilliant as a god, might not even be as strong as Brother Yi. Yi Shiwen was able to seize the opportunity to kill 3 of them while being besieged by the 7 cavalries of the Blood Pirate. Such a battle record was simply amazing. Damn, human, die for me! The leader of the 7 cavalries of the Blood Pirates suddenly became furious. Another one had died in front of his eyes. Not to mention the heartache, his face was burning hot. Killing people in front of him was simply a slap to his face. Buzz! With a loud buzzing sound, the long blade in his hand chopped down once again. It was as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. The power of this blade was too great. Condensing all of his power, it was as if a huge moon had appeared. The light was incomparably dazzling, causing people to involuntarily shiver. He was no ordinary profound death stage expert. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to unleash such a terrifying attack. This extremely brilliant blade seemed as if it had a life of its own. Its radiance was dazzling, and it rushed straight towards Yi Shiwen. Wherever it passed, the space was chopped into two halves. It made people feel as if the entire shrine was about to explode. It was completely shattered by this blade that was full of anger. Kill him! Avenge our brothers! When the leader of the 7 cavalries of the Blood Pirates made his move, the others immediately followed suit. They were extremely furious and wanted to kill Yi Shiwen. The pupils of Yi Shiwen's eyes contracted slightly, but his hands didn't slow down at all. His long sword burst out a dazzling swordlight and directly met the long saber head-on. Once again, it fiercely collided with the long saber. At this moment, there seemed to be no other sound between the heavens and earth. It was as if the universe had exploded. After a moment of silence, everything exploded in an instant, transforming into shock waves that filled the sky, frantically collapsing towards the void. Under Yi Shiwen's guidance, the shock waves created by such a terrifying collision all blasted towards the remaining 3 members of the Blood Pirates of the Blood Pirate. Bang! 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 They immediately let out muffled groans as their entire bodies were swept by the shock wave. They were directly sent flying, with large holes appearing on their chests. This power was simply shocking and appalling. Just the shock waves of the battle were able to seriously injure a powerful early profound death stage existence. This was unheard of. On the other side, just when Yunro, Yi Shan and the others thought that the shock waves were about to sweep towards them, they saw a scroll unfurling, enveloping all of them within it. It was the yin-yang life and death diagram. Countless energy swept towards them, but was unable to break through the defense of the yin-yang life and death diagram. This caused the 2 of them to involuntarily breathe a sigh of relief. Even the early profound death stage Blood Pirates of the Blood Pirates of the Blood Pirates of the Blood Pirates were unable to withstand the shock waves, let alone them. They might have been blasted to death on the spot. At this moment, the boss of the Blood Pirates of the Blood Pirates also let out a muffled groan. The purple lightning beast he was riding on let out a miserable shriek and died on the spot. Blood flowed out from all 7 apertures of its body, while purple blood continuously spurted out from its pores. Blood also flowed out from the corner of the mouth of the boss of the Blood Pirates of the Blood Pirate. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at Yi Shiwen. Although both of them had only exchanged one move, it was an all-out attack. Neither of them had held back at all. Furthermore, the power of the backlash was incomparably terrifying. If not for the fact that he had transferred all the power he had suffered to his mount, he would have been the one bleeding from all 7 apertures of his body and died. Although his mount, which had accompanied him for many years, had died, he did not care about it at all. His own survival was the most important thing. On the other hand, Yi Shiwen, who was standing opposite him, had merely swayed his body slightly before he was able to dissipate all the power. This was an extremely brilliant technique. Moreover, his fleshly body was shockingly powerful. 7 Blood Pirates of the Blood Pirates, I have also heard of your names. You are said to be full of evil and have committed monstrous crimes. Today, I will kill all of you to serve justice on behalf of the heavens. Chapter 1966. Ha ha ha, enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens? What a joke. Yi Shiwen, I admit that I have lost to you this time, but don't use such a ridiculous excuse. Enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens? All of us are doing things that go against the heavens. Who would really put the heavens in their eyes? Enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens? What a joke. The leader of the 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits laughed loudly. Blood flowed uncontrollably from the corner of his mouth. It was unknown if his internal organs had been shattered. At this moment, the blood could not stop flowing. You don't understand at all. Going against the heavens? Yi Shiwen chuckled. His eyes became even sharper. For someone like you, no matter how you die, you will not be wronged. You are powerful. You are indeed a character. Today, I have lost to a little kid like you. But even if I die, I will drag you down with me." The leader of the 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits roared with a ferocious look on his face. He had witnessed his brothers die in front of him in just one day. This had greatly stimulated him, and he had desperately mobilized his secret technique. Boom! 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 All the aura on his body suddenly swelled up like a balloon, becoming extremely powerful. "Want to turn the tables? With just you?" Yi Shiwen did not give him any chance and directly grabbed him with his big hand. Bang! The leader of the 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits was immediately caught in his hand. With a sudden bang, the leader of the 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits exploded on the spot. He turned into blood essence that filled the sky and was absorbed by Yi Shiwen. The leader of the 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits was even more powerful than the old man beside young Master Gui Yun. All of his blood essence was absorbed by Yi Shiwen. Whatever he had lost, it was all replenished in an instant. The leader of the 7 cavalrymen of the Blood Bandits was indeed powerful. An ordinary profound death realm expert could not possibly be his opponent. Even if he had encountered the old man that Yi Shiwen had encountered before, he would not have been defeated. Unfortunately, he had encountered Yi Shiwen. After Yi Shiwen's martial power had increased, it had become boundlessly terrifying. It was far beyond their imagination. If they had condensed martial arts incarnations, they might have been able to fight against Yi Shiwen. But without martial arts incarnations, they wouldn't be able to do anything to Yi Shiwen. With the death of the 7 cavalries of the Blood Pirates, all their wealth had fallen into Yi Shiwen's hands. What Yi Shiwen didn't expect was that these 7 cavalries of Blood Pirates were actually much richer than the old man, and from their bodies, Yi Shiwen found more than 4 million xiandong. They had been robbing and robbing for many years and had a terrible reputation in the profound world battlefield. It was unknown just how many experts they had robbed. Even if most of the wealth had been squandered or used for cultivation, even if there was only a little left, it was still an astronomical amount of wealth for ordinary profound death stage expert. Yi Shiwen's mood immediately improved after killing a strong enemy and obtaining a huge amount of wealth. The tens of millions of xiandong that he had consumed previously had been restored by half in the blink of an eye. No wonder the 7 cavalries of the Blood Pirates, who relied on robbing and robbing for a living, were actually so rich. Sure enough, a man wouldn't be rich without a windfall, and a horse wouldn't get fat without night grass. However, they had robbed weak warriors, and many a little makes a mickle. Yi Shiwen had directly killed the powerhouses and plundered their wealth. Suddenly, he had become rich overnight. "Big brother Yi, I didn't expect that we would meet again, and that I would be saved by you once again," Yun Ro said with difficulty. She looked at Yi Shiwen with astonishment in her eyes. She also didn't expect that they would meet Yi Shiwen again so soon, and that they would be saved by him once again. It was really dangerous this time. If not for Big Brother Ye's help, I'm afraid that we would be finished, and all of us would have been wiped out. Yi Shan said, still in a state of shock. It wasn't that their mental fortitude wasn't good, but anyone who had taken a trip to the gates of hell wouldn't be able to calm down so easily. They were already prepared to fight to the death, but who knew that they would be saved by Yi Shiwen again? It could be said that heaven never bars one's way. "How did you guys provoke these people?" Yi Shiwen asked. He had heard a little about the reputation of the 7 cavalries of the Blood Pirates, and it hadn't been long since he came to the profound world battlefield. It could be seen how famous these 7 people were in the profound world battlefield. "It's all because of the immemorial fruit," Yun Ro said. "I won't hide it from Big Brother Yi. This time, we came to the temple to find the immemorial fruit." "Can the immemorial fruit heal Dao injuries?" Yi Shiwen asked. "Yes, this kind of heavenly treasure is very difficult to see, and only under some special circumstances, it grows in the chaos. It is very difficult to find it, unless it is a great sect, Otherwise, who would have the manpower and material resources to search for the immemorial fruit in the chaos? Even the human race doesn't have it, and we happened to know from the ancient books that there might be the immemorial fruit in this temple, so we came to try our luck. Who would have thought that there would be it, and Brother Bai ate it? Who would have thought that after that, the 7 cavalries of the blood pirates also arrived, and they also came to find the immemorial fruit, and as a result they started fighting? Yun-Ro said. She looked at Yi Shiwen with eyes full of gratitude. If not for Yi Shiwen, she was afraid that they wouldn't have been able to escape this time. This was even more dangerous than the previous incident with Niu Xing. When facing Niu Xing, Bai Jianxing might have some chance of winning, but now that Bai Jianxing was in closed-door cultivation, facing the fierce 7 cavalries of the blood pirates was undoubtedly a matter of survival. Brother Bai's Dao injuries should be healed by now, right? Yi Shiwen looked towards Bai Jianxing, who was sitting in the middle and had not moved at all. Yes, they have already recovered. Therefore, the cultivation that had been suppressed for 1,000 years suddenly became uncontrollable, and is actually about to make a breakthrough on the spot. Yun-Ro could not help but laugh bitterly. No one had imagined that the cultivation that Bai Jianxing had suppressed for 1,000 years would actually be so ferocious. It could not be stopped for even a moment, and was about to make a breakthrough to the intermediate profound death stage on the spot. Yi Shiwen came to a sudden realization. This was very normal. Previously, his Dao injuries were like a dam that had stopped a flood. After stopping it for 1,000 years, the power that had accumulated was truly incomparably frightening. Now that his Dao injuries were gone, all of them had erupted in an instant. The accumulated energy allowed him to make a breakthrough to the intermediate profound death stage was simply a matter of course. The only problem was that he had broken through at the wrong time. He had actually managed to break through at this time. I can see that Brother Bai's aura is gradually stabilizing, and he should not be far from making a breakthrough. Since you have already achieved your goal, you should leave quickly. Don't stay any longer. This place is too dangerous, and it is also very strange. Yi Shiwen suggested. Among their group, only Bai Jianxing had the ability to completely protect himself. The rest were only at the profound life stage, and they would not be able to withstand any unforeseen events. What about Big Brother Yi? Aren't you leaving? Yun-Ro asked. She did not know what Yi Shiwen's goal was, nor did she know if he had completed it. I still have to find that young Master Ghost Luck. Although I do not know what he is doing here, I cannot let him succeed. Yi Shiwen said with narrowed eyes, and a sharp glint flashed across his eyes. Young Master Ghost Luck? Big Brother Yi is looking for him? Yun-Ro never dreamed that the person Yi Shiwen was looking for was actually young Master Ghost Luck. Last time, young Master Ghost Luck had chased them to the ends of the earth, and they were almost killed by him. This had left a very deep impression on her. It was too late to avoid such a terrifying person, and he actually dared to take the initiative to look for him. He was simply crazy. However, she also thought that Yi Shiwen's strength was unfathomable, and he was like a legendary monster. Naturally, he could not be calculated with ordinary logic. Well, that's right. Do you know? Yi Shiwen asked. We just happen to know where he is. You just keep walking inside, and after about the 10th palace you will see that he is inside. The immemorial fruit that we obtained previously is also there. At that time we saw him inside, and he seemed to be setting up some kind of formation. At that time we were discovered, but he did not seem to care about us. Yishan quickly said, At that time we did not dare to stay for long, so we quickly let Big Brother Bai eat the immemorial fruit and escaped. Then we encountered the blood pirates' 7 cavalries. Around here? Yi Shiwen suddenly felt as if he had worn out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find it by chance. Originally, he was worried that he would not be able to catch up. Now, it seemed that he should be able to catch up. Big Brother Yi, That young Master Ghost Fortune is so dangerous. Are you really going to find trouble with him? Yi Shan said with some worry. Naturally, Yi Shiwen did not look for young Master Ghost Fortune to catch up with him. The only possibility was that Yi Shiwen was going to find trouble with him. In their opinion, Yi Shiwen's strength was extremely strong, and far exceeded their strength. However, there was still no comparison between him and young Master Ghost Fortune. After all, that was a terrifying existence in the late profound death realm. Well, that's right. If I didn't know, it would be fine. Now that I know, how can I not go and take a look? Yi Shiwen said with a smile. Previously, he chased us to the point where we had nowhere to go. If we don't return such kindness to him, wouldn't it seem like we don't understand etiquette? But don't worry, I naturally have a way to escape. I won't die in his hands. Yi Shiwen could see their worry and could not help but smile. Alright, you guys guard brother Bai. When he wakes up, quickly take him away. This is not a place to stay for long. As Yi Shiwen spoke, his figure was already impatiently flying towards the depths of the palace complex. Young Master Ghost Fortune, I want to see what you are up to. Chapter 1967. Yi Shiwen had just approached the palace when he heard a sharp and unpleasant roar coming from within. Damned mortal! How dare you encroach on my domain? My domain? A god? Yi Shiwen's expression suddenly became dignified. This was the domain of the gods. In other words, there was a god involved here. It would be easy to deal with any ordinary situation. However, things would become much more complicated if a god was involved. Even though he had a history of deceiving a god, he still didn't dare underestimate a god. A mythical realm entity was already a powerful existence that exceeded his imagination. Even the Divine Union Leader and the Abyssal Demon Master were only at the peak of the mythical realm. However, even the weakest god could easily defeat powerful existences like the Abyssal Demon Master and the Divine Union Leader. In theory, no mortal life form could challenge even the weakest of life forms. Mortals, no matter how long-lived they were, had their own limit. They would pass away after 100,000 years or 10,000 years. Gods, on the other hand, were immortal. There were plenty of gods who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years or even millions of years. Based on the legends of the distant past, it was easy to tell that to them, a nap could take tens of thousands of years. That was the lifespan of a god myth. Even if one didn't take into account other things, just the accumulation of time was enough to widen the gap between a god and a mortal. Provoking the dignity of a god wasn't something an ordinary person would dare to do. Even a mythical realm powerhouse was only a powerful creature. However, this powerful creature was so powerful that one didn't even have the qualifications to look up to it. If Yi Shiwen hadn't had Yi Mo's advice, he would have left rather than choose to make a deal with a god or even deceive a god. Now, someone actually dared to provoke a god? Was it young Master Gui Yun? Yes, Yi Shiwen immediately deduced. His spirit sense couldn't extend more than a kilometer here, so it wouldn't help at all. Even if he could, he wouldn't have chosen to do so. After all, the two people inside could have discovered his whereabouts. Yi Shiwen didn't use his spirit sense immediately. Instead, he quietly arrived at the side of the hall and chose a corner. This hall was completely different from the other halls. In the center of this hall there was a large statue of a deity. It looked very gloomy, and its appearance was actually the image of a little demon. It was no different from the undying blood creatures outside. It's a demon god. Yi Mo's voice appeared in Yi Shiwen's mind. I didn't expect to see a demon god here. Yi Shiwen's expression was awe-inspiring. There were thousands of races in the heavens and the 10,000 worlds. Among them, there were many races that had produced gods. And the human race, the demon race, and the devil race had produced the most gods. Even if he didn't understand anything, He could understand that the current situation was very serious. The relationship between him and young Master Ghost Luck was already irreconcilable. It was either he or I die. Ha 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 ha. The entire hall was filled with young Master Gui Yun's maniacal laughter. He laughed until he felt like he was suffocating. Only then did he stop. A god is only SOSO. After I devour your luck, I will become a new god, the god of luck. Wishful thinking, despicable mortal. You are just a mortal, yet you want to dip your fingers into the divine land and invade the domain of the gods. The statue roared, but there was no way to fight back. Because the main body was in a deep sleep, its strength was already very low. Moreover, it was trapped by this formation. So what if I'm a mortal? Aren't you all just mortals before you become gods? Young Master Ghost Luck said indifferently. Aren't you closer to death now? So don't be stingy. Lend me some strength. If I become a god in the future, I might have a chance to save you from the endless sea of stars. Young Master Ghost Luck said indifferently. Wishful thinking. Is the luck of the gods something that you can dip your fingers into? No wonder your clan is going to be exterminated by the great Devil King. You are too wishful thinking. You want to obtain many things that shouldn't belong to you at all. The statue of the little devil was still roaring crazily. No, I don't think this is wishful thinking. It's just that you are not strong enough. If my clan had an emperor king at that time, who would dare to compete with my clan? Young Master Ghost Luck said coldly. The world says that my clan is despicable, but who knows that our clan is born with bad luck? We are abandoned by the heavens and earth. Since the heavens and earth have abandoned us, we can only fight for our own future. I was left in a human city since I was a beggar. I had to fight with others and even fight with wild dogs for food. Do you know what that feels like? If I hadn't awakened the memories of my clan, I might have been born with bad luck like my ancestors. I would have died of illness and disability at a young age. However, I awakened my bloodline and learned how noble I am. I first absorbed the luck of everyone in the beggar's den and watched them get bitten to death by a group of wild dogs in the next second. Ha 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 ha, you don't understand that feeling. Then, I absorbed the luck of the entire city. After absorbing the luck of those people, my cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. Then, they were suddenly attacked by demonic beasts and slaughtered. Tens of millions of people were wailing in agony. That scene was too beautiful. I walked step by step like this. I never believed that anyone would give me anything. If others don't give it to me, I will personally fight for it. Everything I want belongs to me, there are no exceptions. Young Master Ghost Luck said with a sinister expression. So what if you're a god? You're just a has-been god. You want to act mighty in front of me? Dream on. Young Master Ghost Luck said coldly. Being able to be absorbed by me is your luck. You're very lucky. Lowly mortal, you will definitely pay the price. The stone statue roared. Stop struggling. It's useless. I have already sealed all the space channels around here. It's impossible for you to send a projection here. Young Master Ghost Luck said coldly. He was known as Young Master Ghost Luck because his luck was heaven-defying. However, it depended on who he was compared to. Even if it was a dying god, his luck was invincible against mortals. What was luck? It was when two people's strength was similar. When they were about to fight, the heavens would secretly help them. Scheming against a god was not something an ordinary person could do. One had to be meticulous, otherwise they might be devoured by the gods. What's more, I'm afraid your vitality will be greatly damaged after using a projection. Why bother? This little bit of luck is nothing to you. You might as well help me achieve my goal. Young Master Ghost Luck said calmly. Lowly mortal, I will use this to help you achieve your goal. I won't leave anything for you. The little devil god continued to roar. His voice spread throughout the entire palace, causing the palace walls to tremble. Young Master Ghost Luck ignored the roar of this god. Instead, he muttered to himself. Why is there still no news after so long? Could it be that you still haven't obtained the heads of Yi Shiwen and Bai Jianxing? Your efficiency is so slow. When you return, this young master will suck half of your qi as punishment. Young Master Guiyun said coldly. I don't think you have a chance. Chapter 1968. I don't think you have a chance. A cold voice came from behind him, and then an astonishing saber aura rose from behind him. Who is it? Young Master Guiyun yelled, and a panicked expression appeared on his face. Even he didn't expect that someone would appear from behind him. He felt that the voice was very familiar, but he didn't know who it was for a moment. However, the most terrifying thing was that he was sitting cross-legged on the ground. Although he looked rather relaxed, he couldn't move at all because he had to control the entire formation. He didn't want to give up this good opportunity, so he couldn't help but struggle in his heart. At this moment, while he was struggling, the opportunity that he had to dodge completely disappeared in an instant. Crash! A deafening roar came from behind him. He spread out his divine will and clearly saw an earth-shattering saber qi forming in the air. Then, it blasted towards him like a hot knife through butter. Almost in an instant, the entire world collapsed into pieces, and the direction of the shattering spread directly towards him. At this moment, he wanted to dodge, but it was too late. He could only let the saber slash his body. Bang! 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 A series of intense explosions erupted from young Master Guiyun's body. All the defensive artifacts on his body collapsed in an instant. In the face of this terrifying saber aura that could kill immortals and gods, they couldn't withstand a single blow. This was a saber that had condensed almost all of his power. Boom! In the end, the saber qi still fiercely slammed into his body, immediately forming a huge mushroom cloud that rose up with a loud bang. Even the atoms had been completely obliterated, erupting with world-shaking power. In this huge mushroom cloud, a figure was thrown out like a cannonball. Half of his body was completely festered, and his flesh was badly mutilated. No matter how profound his cultivation was, he was still almost killed when he was hit by the saber. If it wasn't for the divinity he absorbed at the last moment to block the attack for him, he would have died without a burial place. However, it was also because of this that the divinity and luck he had absorbed before collapsed instantly, turning into useless efforts. At this moment, he finally saw clearly who the guy who sneak attacked him was. It turned out to be him. It turned out to be Yi Shiwen. At this time, he finally understood why he had such a shocking sense of danger when he was chasing after Yi Shiwen. He even had a feeling that he might be killed if he continued to chase after Yi Shiwen. Now, he finally understood what the problem was. The long saber in his hand exuded a terrifying power that made him feel terrified. At this moment, he finally understood why his subordinates hadn't returned yet. He was afraid that they had been completely killed by now. It's actually you. As he spoke, he kept spitting out blood. Today, he was completely defeated by Yi Shiwen. Under normal circumstances, even if he was sneak attacked, he wouldn't have the slightest power to retaliate. You definitely didn't expect that the guy who you have never taken seriously would actually be able to injure you so severely one day. Yi Shiwen slowly walked in from outside the palace, one step at a time. You have completely angered me. I definitely won't let you go. I definitely won't. Young Master Ghost Fortune said with a crazy expression. Ever since he started his career, he had never suffered such a huge loss. He almost turned into ashes. Wait until you can live for another day, Yi Shiwen said lightly. Swish. Suddenly, an astonishing power erupted from young Master Ghost Fortune's body. His entire body was like a meteor, directly leaping out of the palace. In an instant, he had already disappeared from Yi Shiwen's perception. During this process, Yi Shiwen didn't move at all. It wasn't that he didn't want to stop young Master Ghost Fortune, but he simply couldn't do anything. Although young Master Ghost Fortune was seriously injured, Yi Shiwen wasn't any better. The power of the saber just now was so terrifying that it directly sucked out all the qi in his body, turning him into a cripple in an instant. Although he still had the tyrant golden form, it wasn't as if he didn't have the strength to fight back. With just his physical body alone, ordinary profound death realm experts wouldn't be able to do anything to him. However, it was impossible for him to stop young Master Ghost Fortune. Even if he was seriously injured, he couldn't help but frown. He had miscalculated. Initially, he thought that he could finish off young Master Ghost Fortune with one slash. Who knew that young Master Ghost Fortune would use his divinity to block the attack at the crucial moment. This caused him to only be seriously injured, but not killed. He couldn't help but feel a little regretful. However, he was also a little glad that he had arrived early. Otherwise, if he had continued to absorb the divinity, he was afraid that this slash wouldn't even be able to injure him, let alone seriously injure him. He understood the power of divinity too well. Wasn't his tyrant golden form just like that? However, the good thing was that young Master Ghost Fortune wouldn't be able to recover in a short period of time after being seriously injured by him. Not to mention, his harvest this time was probably completely annihilated by that slash just now. Whatever he had eaten, he would have to spit it out twice as much. However, in just a short period of time, the qi in his body had recovered a little with the help of the Phoenix regeneration technique. He could barely fight back. "Human, as long as you let me go, I can give you whatever you want." At this moment the statue spoke. He had witnessed the entire process of the battle between Yi Shiwen and young Master Ghost Fortune. He thought that the opportunity had finally come. "I don't want anything else. I just want all the divinity in this statue of yours." Yi Shiwen grinned. If he could absorb all the divinity in the statue, his tyrant golden form would undoubtedly rise to another level. If it was said that his tyrant golden form was a little insufficient to contend against top profound level weapons, then after absorbing all the divinity, it could be said that he could almost completely contend against these top profound level weapons with his bare hands. In other words, it was simply impossible to injure him with just one shot like the previous old man. He immediately sat cross-legged on young Master Guiyun's seat and began to carefully comprehend it. After spending millions of Xian Dawn, he had already deduced all the subtleties of this formation. Although this formation was exquisite, it was nothing for Yi Shiwen, who had deduced the Ghost Heart Flame formation before. After deducing the Ghost Heart Flame formation, Yi Shiwen's level of formation had simply advanced by leaps and bounds. He had long reached the level of a great master. Even without the deduction of the mysterious space, he could also deduce it by himself. It was just that it would take a lot of time. This formation could actually strip the divinity from the statue. The mysteries behind it were naturally extraordinary. After Yi Shiwen deduced it, he felt that he had made great gains in the formation. "Despicable! You lowly mortal! You are exactly the same as the previous one." The huge statue roared, but there was no other way. Because of the formation left by young Master Ghost Fortune, it had been firmly binding it, making it unable to move at all. Yi Shiwen didn't pay attention to the roar of the statue. Instead, he continued to operate the observing person scripture. The divinity in his body also boiled up in an instant. It formed a huge universe around him, forming a huge vortex. The divinity of the statue turned into a golden silk thread, and was absorbed by Yi Shiwen. Soon, his whole body became like a silkworm cocoon, and was surrounded by endless golden silk threads. Yi Shiwen was crazily absorbing these divinities. These divinities could only be produced and refined by the god. Now, a layer of intense golden light had formed on the surface of Yi Shiwen's body, and was constantly being absorbed into his body. The originally fixed gilded tyrant form actually began to show signs of a breakthrough. Little by little, it was transforming in a more powerful direction. The divinity itself belonged to the god. And only the gods could use this kind of power. Yi Shiwen seemed to be faintly emitting the radiance of divinity after absorbing this divinity into his body. It seemed as if he was a god sitting cross-legged in cultivation. He looked incomparably holy. Beside him, the statue continued to roar continuously, but it was useless. Young Master Ghost Fortune was still interested in talking to him, but Yi Shiwen had no interest in talking to him at all. He only cared about constantly absorbing divinity to strengthen the power of his gilded tyrant form. His gilded tyrant form had almost reached a bottleneck. His gilded tyrant form was already a perfect existence. If he wanted to go further, it would only be possible if his cultivation advanced a step further. However, the gilded tyrant form was different. If he had enough divinity, he would even dare to challenge the mythical figures and not be killed. This deity was completely enraged. He was flustered and exasperated. Although many powerful warriors didn't regard deities as existences of the heavens and earth, no matter what they thought, it was rare to see someone who dared to provoke a deity face to face. Not to mention, it was even rarer to find someone who dared to plunder a deity face to face. Today, he actually encountered two in one go. How bad was his luck? Could it be that his luck had really been exhausted? However, no matter how he roared, as the divinity was slowly absorbed, the statue that was full of divinity also lost its spirituality bit by bit. Finally, it completely became an ordinary statue. In the main hall, only his loud and angry roar echoed. Chapter 1969. After a long time, Yi Shiwen finally opened his eyes and stood up. His entire body was shining with golden light, and he looked like a golden god. All the golden divinity on this statue had been completely absorbed by him. He could feel that the strength of his gilded tyrant form had increased to a higher level. Originally, he might have been injured when facing a top-notch Xian weapon, but now, he could completely resist it. It was simply another level up. Boom! With a loud bang, the array in front of him suddenly collapsed. At this moment, a terrifying divine sense descended from the sky and directly probed in. It turned into a huge scarlet eye. Yi Shiwen, hurry up and leave. This demon god is no longer restrained by the array. It's going to directly project an incarnation. Yimo hurriedly reminded. Young Master Gui Yun had set up an array formation to seal off the nearby space, so the fiend celestial wouldn't be able to fly over no matter how angry he was. However, now that the array formation was broken, he could directly sense this place. Even though the projection would greatly damage his vitality, he couldn't care less about it. He had already been blinded by anger. He must make these two lowly mortals pay the price. Whoosh! The space was like the surface of the water. It was like the surface of boiling water. It quickly fluctuated and expanded in all directions. Then, a huge devil's claw fell from the sky and directly grabbed towards Yi Shiwen. Lowly mortals, die! Accompanied by an angry roar, the demon claw directly crushed the entire palace into pieces. Whoosh! When Yi Shiwen reappeared, he was already in another palace. Behind him, a pair of wind and thunder wings were constantly flapping. He couldn't help but feel some lingering fear. He was almost killed by this devil's claw just now. This boundless and terrifying pressure reminded him of the feeling when he was chased by the Abyss Demon Master. He couldn't help but gasp. The Abyss Demon Master was a top-notch figure in the myth realm. This god was just a projection, and yet he already had such terrifying strength. Sure enough, everyone under the god was an ant. There was an obvious watershed between Dao validation and not Dao validation. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. This was the result of the wrath of a god who was close to death. Provoking a real god was so terrifying that it wasn't something that Yi Shiwen could bear now. However, these thoughts were only slightly filtered in his mind. He didn't dare to stay at all, and immediately fled in the direction of the exit. Boom! 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 That huge demonic hand kept bombarding down. The terrifying power directly caused the world to collapse completely. The beautiful and magnificent temple also completely collapsed under the wrath of the demonic hand and turned into dust. The speed of that devil's hand was very fast. It constantly stretched out from the void space channel and rushed towards Yi Shiwen to grab him. Yi Shiwen's speed wasn't slow either. He was like a golden lightning. He was always able to dodge this dreadful claw attack by a hair's breadth. The consumption of a projection was too great. For a god who was on the verge of death, this was akin to taking his life. In the end, he decided to only create a single hand. For an ordinary profound death realm expert, a single hand was enough to crush a group of people to death. However, it was a pity that Yi Shiwen wasn't an ordinary profound death realm expert. His speed was extremely fast, and he was actually able to avoid the attack of the huge demon claw. Yi Shiwen was somewhat glad that he didn't send his entire projection. Otherwise, he would definitely not be able to escape from a furious myth realm figure. Yi Shiwen easily avoided it, but the others weren't so lucky. The people who were still searching for treasures in the various palaces were instantly caught in the crossfire. In an instant, the entire palace collapsed, and the endless space shattered. They didn't even have time to react before they died miserably. They were existences at the profound life realm or profound death realm. In the outside world, they were all big shots in the mysterious world. However, at this moment they were no different from ants. In the face of a furious god, no one could stop their anger. Boom! 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 After a series of loud explosions, the entire palace collapsed one after another. The void was completely shattered. In fact, Yi Shiwen could even feel the space trembling. The entire space of this plane felt as though it was about to shatter. When such a terrifying existence was enraged, the entire space, the entire small plane, felt as though it was on the verge of collapsing. In just a few breaths' time, Yi Shiwen had already flown out of the palace. The devouring heaven-swallowing beast, which was originally extremely arrogant and invincible, was nowhere to be seen. It was unknown if it had sensed the aura of the furious god, but at this moment it was hiding and trembling. Hong long long long! The huge hand continued to chase after him. Everywhere it passed, the space would collapse. There was no way for it to even gather. After leaving the palace, the space that Yi Shiwen could move around in had become wider and wider. The tyrannical power of the wind and thunder wings had also become more and more flexible. After a long time, the devil hand finally vented its anger. In other words, it could no longer support such a huge consumption. Finally, it disappeared without a trace. However, the entire plane had been almost destroyed. It was almost on the verge of collapse. Such a frightening figure was in existence that could even penetrate through a plane. As for those profound realm experts, not to mention, it was unknown how many of them had died. Even if it wasn't a complete annihilation, it was basically the same. Except for those who had left in advance, it was basically a complete annihilation. This was the horror of the profound realm battlefield. In the profound world, it could even be said to be the place with the highest concentration of profound realm experts in the entire universe. The survival of a king stage expert was already enough to shake the world. It was also very difficult for a profound realm expert to protect himself here. Yi Shiwen sighed and did not stay for long. This time, he had gained too much. He needed to find a place to properly digest it. However, the matter here was not over yet. Traces of gods had appeared in this plane. For the various experts and sects, it was earth-shattering news. They had worked hard for thousands of years, even tens of thousands of years. What was it for? Wasn't it all for the sake of becoming a god like their predecessors? As long as there was a little bit of news about gods, it was enough to make them go crazy. Of course, if it was an intact god, they would not have the guts to provoke the dignity of a god. However, if it was a god that was about to fall, then it was different. The news spread as the plane was about to collapse. Originally, it was just a rumor of unknown origin that there were traces of deities here. Not many people believed it. Or rather, the true mainstays of the plane, the peak profound death realm and even the myth realm experts, did not take this matter to heart. However, as the news spread, the signs of gods taking action became more and more obvious. More and more experts rushed over. If they could become gods, then even if they were gods, they would dare to kill them. Although none of them could pose a threat to gods, when their numbers reached a certain level, it would be a very terrifying thing. Moreover, there was no lack of top myth realm experts among them. Such people already had the means to threaten the gods that were about to fall. This was also the reason why, even though everyone knew that the gods still existed in this world, they didn't know where they were sleeping, but ordinary people hadn't even heard of them. The gods that were in hibernation usually meant that they were close to falling. Such gods were usually very careful in hiding themselves in their own divine kingdom, waiting for the day when they could recover and wake up again in the future. These gods usually acted very carefully. If they were not careful, it was very likely that they would be directly slaughtered. That would not be worth it. If these ferocious fellows found out where they were sleeping, then it would be the time when they would truly fall. Even if they suffered heavy losses and countless myth realm experts fell, they would definitely not let a true god go. Unless this true god had created an immortal legacy, then no one would dare to provoke him. Countless experts swarmed over, and it was said that there were even myth realm experts fighting each other. Because of that, the already fragile world was completely destroyed. As for the sand-swallowing, heaven-swallowing beast, it was said that it was also taken away by a myth realm expert. These things spread little by little over the next 2 months. More and more people began to know about this god sect. There were even records of this god sect in many ancient inheritances. The appearance of gods was no longer just empty talk. It was a fact. This stimulated many experts to start rushing over. Of course, with so many top experts fighting, the plane that had been ravaged by the gods finally couldn't stand it anymore. It completely collapsed, and the fragments fell into the endless chaos. This completely stopped people from looking for the god through this plane. However, there was also news that some people came early and found the sleeping place of this god through some clues. It was very likely that this would evolve into a god-slaying war. In the midst of this turbulent news, Yi Shiwen was also on the way to Moonfall City. He would not be able to make it in time for the battle with Diwu Xian. However, he did not intend to give up. A peerless heavens pride expert of the same realm was the best whetstone to test his gains during this period of time. The battle was about to start. Chapter 1970. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. Yi Shiwen could finally return to Moonfall City. Compared to when he had left in a hurry and was in a slightly sorry state, there had been earth-shattering changes, even though it had only been a few months since his return. 3 months ago, he had just broken into the profound death stage. Now, he had already reached the peak of the profound death stage. Now that he thought about it, it had only been a few months. Time had changed. Now, even if he were to face Elder Xian Ting again, he would no longer be in such a sorry state and be powerless to fight back. However, this was far from enough. Even if his strength had improved, he was still not strong enough to deal with Elder Xian Ting. The matter of forming a sword principal incarnation had to be put on the agenda. He could consider it after his battle with Diwu Xian. Once he formed a sword principal incarnation, even if he had yet to reach the profound death stage, he would no longer need to fear ordinary profound death stage experts. Forming a martial principle incarnation and forming two martial principle incarnations was a huge breakthrough. The further one progressed, the greater the disparity would be. That was also the reason why the myriad body transformations technique was so precious. 9 clones was probably enough to shake the heavens and earth. Even amongst the techniques of the various gods, it was more than enough to stand at the top. This was the foundation that Yi Shiwen had relied on to compete with the various geniuses and widen the gap between him and them. According to Yi Mo's plan, every time he formed a martial principle incarnation, his strength would widen the gap between him and the peerless geniuses. In the end, the gap would be so big that it would be enough to destroy all of his opponents. The further he cultivated, the more important this body multiplication technique became to him. For Luoyue City, after Yi Shiwen's departure, these 3 months were also very lively. Many people came and went. Many geniuses came and engraved their names on the steel. Then, they were forced to leave in a hurry because of the 1-month restriction order. Many of the most talented geniuses were here, and they truly shone with boundless light. Among them, Yi Shiwen was undoubtedly one of the bright spots. Although he only stayed in Luoyue City for a month, and most of the time, he was still practicing. He seemed to be very low-key, but it did not mean that his reputation in Luoyue City was small. On the contrary, his reputation in Luoyue City was not small at all. The reason was because of the Heaven Desolate Palace. Originally, the people of the Heaven Desolate Palace thought that they could easily capture Yi Shiwen and force him to hand over the quota, or directly kill him and snatch the quota. In fact, many people of other forces also thought so. Who would have thought that Yi Shiwen would severely injure Elder Xian Ting in that earth-shattering battle 3 months ago? Who would have thought that Yi Shiwen would be the first to do so? With his mid-profound death stage cultivation, he was actually able to seriously injure late-profound death stage experts. This battle caused his name to resound throughout the world. In the battle that made him famous, he had merely killed a few early profound death stage experts. In the eyes of many top experts, this was simply nothing. However, this battle caused those top experts to have a whole new level of respect for Yi Shiwen. In a situation where mythological figures rarely appeared, peak profound death stage experts were already the top experts. Below them, the most powerful experts were naturally the late profound death stage experts. As a member of this group of top experts, they were actually seriously injured by Yi Shiwen. This was simply shocking. In other words, Yi Shiwen actually possessed the ability to threaten these top experts. This couldn't be taken lightly. As these people paid more attention to Yi Shiwen's reputation naturally became more resounding. Therefore, although he did not leave his name on the stone tablet and challenge experts from various places like those previous experts, his reputation was not weak at all. In particular, the battle agreement between him and Diwu Hardhearted had been spread like wildfire. Many people knew that he and Diwu Hardhearted had agreed to battle before. Therefore, whether Yi Shiwen would show up or not became a hot topic. Some people felt that it was impossible for him to appear. This was because at that time, the Heaven Wasteland Hall had practically adopted a stance of wanting to kill him. They had sent many experts over and surrounded the martial arts arena. As the 3 months had not passed, the martial arts arena was placed outside. Therefore, it was completely surrounded by the experts of the Heaven Wasteland Hall. Seeing such a lineup, even those who had the most confidence in Yi Shiwen felt that it was absolutely impossible for him to appear. Indeed, things were just as they had expected. Yi Shiwen did not appear on the martial arts arena, causing everyone to wait for a day and a night in vain. However, although some people slandered Yi Shiwen because of this, he was actually timid and did not dare to show up. He could not be considered a hero. However, there were also many people who stood on his side. In such a situation, how many people would dare to follow him in? At that time, there were more than a dozen late profound death stage experts present. There was even a peak profound death stage expert from the Heaven Wasteland Hall eyeing him covetously from the side. There were countless other profound death stage and profound life stage experts. With such a lineup, those who did not know would think that they were going to deal with a legendary expert. If it was anyone else, they would not appear to die unless they had absolute confidence. Otherwise, appearing here would not be courage, but idiocy. If he only had this kind of courage, it would be impossible for him to live to this point. There were also many people who felt that the Heaven Wasteland Hall was too ostentatious at the beginning, which scared them away. If they had hidden from the beginning and waited for Yi Shiwen to appear, they would definitely be able to capture them in one fell swoop. In short, there were all kinds of opinions for a while, and it had completely become a mess. However, as time passed, this topic that had recently exploded, along with the departure of Diwu Hardhearted and Yi Shiwen not appearing, gradually disappeared from everyone's sight. However, just as everyone was gradually forgetting about this matter, Yi Shiwen appeared again in a high-profile manner. It was actually not too appropriate to say that he appeared in a high-profile manner, because he had not been too high-profile at all. It was just that in these few months, as his matter had caused an uproar, his whereabouts had always been the focus of everyone's attention. Almost as soon as he appeared, he had already been discovered by the spies of the major forces in the city. Almost all of a sudden, everyone's emotions exploded. No one thought that when everyone thought that he would not appear, he would actually appear. Where did he go in the past few months? They would never have thought that Yi Shiwen was not frightened by the people of the Heaven Wasteland Hall, but did not rush over at all. At that time, he was consolidating the realm that he had just broken through. It was only now that he had completely consolidated his cultivation at the peak of the profound death realm middle stage. Only then did he have the mood to come out and meet the appointment. Although he was a few months late, it did not matter to him. If Diwu Hardhearted did not make any progress in these few months, it would be a waste of his efforts. He must be crazy. Does he think that the people of the Heaven Wasteland Hall can do nothing to him in Moonfall City? As long as they surround Moonfall City, it will be the time of his death when he wants to leave again a month later. Yes, although most of the people of the Heaven Wasteland Hall have already left, it will only take a short while for them to rush back. Unless he leaves immediately, the people of the Heaven Wasteland Hall will definitely gamble with him. I don't think so. Since he dared to return at this time, he must have something to rely on. He is not a reckless person. Otherwise, I'm afraid he would have already returned. No matter what, he is finally back. I have been looking forward to his battle with Diwu Hardhearted for a long time. As the saying goes, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. He has given us a huge surprise before. This time, I will definitely not let go of such an opportunity. Who knows, I might even be able to pick up some treasures. For a moment, the entire Moonfall City was in chaos because of Yi Shiwen's return. It seemed that everyone was watching the clash between the two parties. Compared to the clash between Yi Shiwen and Diwu Hardhearted, the clash between Yi Shiwen and the Heaven Wasteland Hall, and even the Divine Union, was more attractive. Everyone wanted to see what Yi Shiwen was relying on to dare to return to Luo Yu City at such a critical time. There were still a few years before the nameless Tao College truly opened. For ordinary people, entering Moonfall City was tantamount to obtaining protection. At the very least, they would be able to take a breather for a month. However, for Yi Shiwen, this was tantamount to seeking his own death. This was because there were too many people watching him, and they were not ordinary people. The Divine Union, the Heaven Wasteland Hall, the Heavenly Cloud City, and a series of other major forces who coveted his quota. Their roots were intertwined with each other, and they involved the behemoths that ruled the entire mysterious world. If an ordinary person were to face any one of them, it would be a hopeless situation. However, Yi Shiwen had actually been able to survive ever since he had offended the divine union. This had to be considered a miracle. It was a great miracle. For a moment, everyone rushed to the battle arena in the center of the city. There, Yi Shiwen was already quietly waiting for Diwu Hardhearted to receive the news and rush back. Diwu Hardhearted finally lived up to Yi Shiwen's expectations. In less than half a day, he had already received the news and rushed back from the outside world. Compared to a few months ago, the current Diwu Hardhearted was even more outstanding. He was like an unsheathed sword that gave off the illusion of a sharpness that could behead everyone. You are finally back. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Chapter 1971. You're finally back. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Diwu Hardhearted looked at Yi Shiwen and said with a serious expression. He did not have any emotions because Yi Shiwen stood him up last time. For him, this was not important. The extra few months were also very important to him. You're much stronger than you were a few months ago, Yi Shiwen said to Diwu Hardhearted. Compared to a few months ago, Diwu Hardhearted had undergone a tremendous change. He was more than twice as strong. If it was the Yi Shiwen from a few months ago, he would not have been able to deal with the current Diwu Hardhearted. But in these few months, he did not stagnate. Right now, he needed a strong opponent to verify his progress in these few months. Diwu Hardhearted did not answer. Instead, he looked at Yi Shiwen and said, You have to think this through. I will not be merciful. If you die, don't blame me. He felt a sense of extreme danger from Yi Shiwen's body. This feeling was different from anyone he had met before. So, even he was not confident that he could defeat Yi Shiwen if he was merciful. A situation like the werewolf hunter from before would not happen again. But he was still very confident in himself. He was no longer the same as before. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the two of them. The battle between the two of them had been known since a few months ago. However, it was only now that the agreement between the two of them had been fulfilled. No matter who won or lost, it would become big news in the Xian world. No matter what kind of opinions people had, they had to admit that these two, no matter who it was, had the qualifications to be the strongest. At least, the top young geniuses had not fought face to face yet. Many of the strong and weak were their own judgments and had not been recognized by the public. And the battle between the strongest of this generation seemed to have begun with the opening of the nameless Tao Academy. Even amongst the many geniuses that were highly regarded, the two of them were famous existences. One was the descendant of the Diwu family, an existence that had once produced a god. It was almost comparable to an immortal inheritance, and Diwu Hardhearted was the most outstanding disciple. His shooting sun swordsmanship was almost invincible. No one could get close to him. As for the other one, he had challenged several of the most powerful monsters in the world when he first appeared. Yet, he was still able to survive until now. Just this alone was a huge miracle. This was definitely a battle between dragons and tigers. It was even more eye-catching than a few months ago. In these few months they had all grown. Even though these few months were very short for them, for these people, these few months were enough for them to change a lot. Don't be too confident. It is still hard to say who will win and who will lose. Yi Shiwen also became serious, no longer as relaxed as before. Then let us begin. Diwu Hardhearted's cold and murderous voice came from in front of Yi Shiwen. His eyes were as black as the night, and his murderous aura shot up into the sky. Although he was not like Yi Shiwen, who could be said to be numb to killing people and who knew how many experts he had slaughtered, he did not lack battles. It was just that Yi Shiwen's experience was too strange, forcing him to fight against the heavens, against the earth, against the people. As Diwu Hardhearted spoke, his aura seemed to have an astonishing aura guiding him. It was as if he had become the center of the universe. This power was very vigorous, and countless spiritual energies were automatically absorbed. Even a casual movement would cause a surging spiritual energy current to sweep out. He did not know what kind of mental cultivation method it was, but it had always been shocking. With the countless years of foundation of the Diwu family, it was not strange for them to have any kind of shocking cultivation method. So powerful. Just his aura alone is already so shocking. Someone could not help but exclaim. I'm afraid that even an ordinary profound death realm expert would not be able to release such a shocking aura. This Diwu hard-hearted had just broken through to the profound death realm a few months ago, and now he has already grown to such an extent. Has he really entered the stage of great eruption? That must be it. These people's eruption came late, but it came even more fiercely. In a short period of time, they will most likely break through to a higher realm. These people will all be seeds of the legend realm. I don't know how Yi Shiwen will deal with it, but he is not an ordinary person. He has many tricks up his sleeves, and he will definitely not fight a battle he is not confident in. Since he has returned, he must have come prepared. Everyone discussed, but Yi Shiwen's confidence could not be shaken. He stared closely at Diwu hard-hearted. When that astonishing aura pressed down on him, he did not even see him counterattack. He only took a step forward and completely destroyed this astonishing aura. In an instant it was completely destroyed like a cool breeze, as if it did not exist at all. Make your move. Let me see how much progress you have made in these few months, Yi Shiwen said indifferently. Don't be so full of yourself. Diwu hard-hearted frowned slightly, a little displeased. Who did this person think he was? See how much progress he had made? Did he really think he was some kind of senior? Whoosh. And at this moment, he made his move. His hands were obviously empty, but he just stretched them out and made the standard posture of shooting an arrow. Countless spiritual energy frantically gathered towards his hands and condensed into an incomparably huge arrow of light. Countless spiritual energy began to revolve within it and turned into talismans one after another. Then, they suddenly shot out with a loud bang. Rumble! This incomparably huge arrow of light had already destroyed everything in an instant, and directly swept towards Yi Shiwen. Although the space had been reinforced by the matrix, wherever this arrow of light passed, the space still fluctuated violently, like a piece of paper being blown by the wind. It was incomparably violent. At this time, Yi Shiwen also moved. His big hand grabbed towards the void, and a golden long sword suddenly condensed. Then, he slashed out with a loud bang. It turned into millions of golden sword lights, and directly slashed down. These beams of light were not ordinary beams of light, but rather talismans of the Tao of the sword. At this moment, all of them transformed into sword beams, causing these millions of sword beams to burst forth with shocking power, directly causing a large area of the air to collapse. Bang! Both sides directly collided, creating earth-shattering power. In such a moment, the completely different martial arts of both sides fiercely collided. Yi Shiwen's sword technique was extremely complex. Countless law talismans, densely packed together, were enough to frighten people to death just by looking at it, superimposed with astonishing power. On the other side, Diwu Heartbreaker's simple arrow was not weak in the slightest. Countless waves of air swept out, directly rushing out of the martial arts arena, penetrating the matrix, and even the onlookers could feel the fluctuations of the battle between the two sides. Many people's eyes flashed with a light of horror. This was because they were sealed in the matrix, otherwise the aftermath that spread out would be enough to make them retreat for hundreds of miles, not daring to come close. Is that all you've got? Yi Shiwen, if this is all you've got, then you will definitely be defeated by my hands. Diwu Heartbreaker's cold voice came out. Too slow, too slow. Just when everyone was incomparably shocked, another sharp arrow directly burst out. It completely shattered the sky, and went straight towards Yi Shiwen's face. Everyone suddenly turned pale with fright. They did not know when Diwu Heartbreaker had actually shot out another arrow. The collision between the two sides just now seemed to have taken a long time, but in fact it was only a moment. In such a short time, he had actually shot out 2 arrows in a row. This kind of shooting speed was really too shocking. For an archer, the speed at which they fired directly determined whether they would encounter danger or not. After all, this wasn't a battlefield, but an arena. The distance between the two sides was very short. 4 warriors like them, tearing open the space would only take a breath's time before they could pounce on their opponent. Therefore, although there was a saying that an inch longer was an inch stronger, for archers who were not close combat, this was almost an insurmountable natural flaw. No matter how powerful their arrows were, as long as they did not have the opportunity to shoot, no matter how powerful they were, it would be useless. Therefore, for archers, even more so than ordinary warriors, shooting speed was even more important. Because of the long range, even top archers could shoot tens of thousands of miles with one arrow, so for them, movement techniques were not very important. The real deciding factor was their shooting speed. The faster their shooting speed, the stronger their strength. As long as their shooting speed was fast enough, no one could get close to them. It did not matter even if they stood still, so to a certain extent, movement techniques were basically useless to them. "Rapid arrow, it's rapid arrow!" someone exclaimed. For archers, rapid arrow seemed to be only a basic skill, but the speed of rapid arrow shooting was where their true strength was tested. And the most powerful skill of archers was also rapid arrow shooting, which was their most dangerous skill. Slow? I don't think so, Yi Shiwen faintly said. It seemed as if he didn't care about the arrow that was flying straight towards his face. The arrow had already arrived in front of him. The sharp astral wind directly blew his hair and made it fly in a disheveled manner. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.